The high priest had left, but now a large group of people had come. They numbered over 500, and they were all nether passage experts. The sight of them shocked everyone present. That was because all those people were wearing the same robes to indicate their status. These 500 nether passage experts were all from one sect, the Huayun sect. These nether passage experts were all wearing the robes of the Huayun sect. Their leader was a thin old man who didn't look special, not having any of the air of an expert. That person smiled and cupped his fists in greeting. Sorry, the past few years, it's been tough to carry on my business. The world's not very safe, so I have no choice but to bring a few more bodyguards. This person spoke very openly and amicably, but for him to have 500 nether passage experts as bodyguards made him look dazzling. How could just anyone look like that? There was no other sect in the world that had such power. It was now apparent to all why Pill Valley would feel fearful of the Huayun sect. This kind of foundation was truly terrifying. The majority of sects only knew that the Huayun sect possessed a bottomless pool of wealth, but they had never imagined that they would be powerful to this extent. "Maruyun, what do you think you're doing?" demanded Yu Xiaoyun. "If you use this kind of tone, you'll frighten people. We are just a group of businessmen, so naturally we're here for our business. Seeing a business opportunity and not taking action would make us bad businessmen," replied the elder. This person was the master of the Huayun sect, Maruyun, one of the most influential people in the world. "Don't talk in circles. If you have something to say it directly," said Yu Xiaoyun coldly. "Haha. It seems that the Valley Master doesn't like talking gently. Alright, I'll get straight to the point. The Martial Heaven Alliance is an old client of my Huayun sect. Alliance head Chu Jianying is someone my Huayun sect depends on for our livelihood. She looks after us, and without her cooperation, I don't even know how many people would go hungry in my Huayun sect. So, when one of our clients is in trouble, it's a business opportunity. There are money investments, but there are also emotional investments. I'm sure someone as wise as the Valley Master knows what I'm talking about," said Maruyun. "You mean you wish to interfere in this matter? Have you forgotten the Huayun sect's purpose?" demanded Yu Xiaoyun. The Huayun sect was just a business, could not interfere in personal matters of any sects. That was their core principle. That is why I said that your previous words were a slap in your own face. You said that since the Dark Era was coming, we should be united against outside threats. But I thought that Pill Valley was a neutral power that didn't interfere with the other powers of the continent. Why have you suddenly taken a new attitude, acting like the savior of the world and raising your blade against others?" asked Maruyun. "It's for the peace of the Martial Heaven continent," raged Yu Xiaoyun. "Then I'm doing the same. The Martial Heaven Alliance is our largest alliance and the most stable foundation of our world. If this foundation is rocked, the world will definitely be thrown into chaos. If the continent is thrown into chaos at such a time, it will spell disaster. For the world, as a member of the Martial Heaven continent, the Huayun sect must carry this burden to support the Martial Heaven Alliance. For ourselves, if the world was thrown into chaos, it would be a huge blow to our business. The losses would be inestimable. So in either case, we have a reason to stand beside the Martial Heaven Alliance. After all, we're different from Pill Valley. Pill Valley's various healing pills, poison-dispelling pills, soul-nourishing pills, and explosive pills are all used in battle, and at a frightening rate at that. If a war were to start, your Pill Valley might profit immensely, but my Huayun sect would have to tighten its belt. So we have no other choice," said Maruyun. Upon hearing those words, everyone's expressions changed when they looked at Yu Xiaoyun. If a battle were to erupt here, the one to benefit the most would really be Pill Valley. On the battlefield, there were sometimes no chances to heal, and so they could only rely on medicinal pills to hold on. Whoever bought more pills would have a greater chance of surviving. When they heard Long Chun say that Yu Xiaoyun was an agent of the original devil race, although his words had some reason, most people didn't really believe it. That was because they all knew that Pill Valley had the legacy of true gods. Yu Xiaoyun wouldn't dare to betray his gods, so there was no chance he would collude with the original devil race. However, Maruyun was different. First of all, his status was completely different, and his words possessed greater weight. His words were also more believable, as he was merely pointing out that Pill Valley would profit the most from war. The corrupt path, the ancient races, the Shen beasts, the ancient family alliance, and all the various large powers began to smell the scent of a scheme. Long Chun had said that there was a scheme, and now Ma Ruyun was also pointing out that Pill Valley was the one who would profit from war. That's absolute nonsense. When has my Pill Valley ever done something so shameless? I am doing this entirely because Long Chun colluded with the original devil race to destroy the continent. I had no choice but to stand up, shouted Yu Xiaoyun. His expression changed when he saw various experts casting suspicious glances at him. Long Chen's wedge had been driven in by Ma Ruyun's words. Suddenly, the unfettered all-seer from Heavenly Fate Island stepped forward. He is correct. I can testify that Valley Master Yu was doing this for the continent's safety. My Heavenly Fate Island foresaw 100 years ago that when the Great Era came, a fiend that would be a calamity for the continent would be born. After years of observation, we are now sure that Long Chun is that fiend. Everyone knows about Long Chen's history. He came from some secular empire in the eastern wasteland. Just how many conflicts have arisen because of him? Just how much slaughter has he committed? Just how many people has he killed? Perhaps the rise of an expert requires stepping over the corpses of his enemies. But then have you ever heard of any genius who is surrounded by unending battles and slaughter like Long Chun? Wherever he goes, he brings a calamity with him. Fuck your fucking mother. It was those people who brought it upon themselves. If Long Chun didn't fight back, he would have died to them. Was he supposed to just let them kill him? The old man finally couldn't endure it anymore and cursed the unfettered all-seer. Humph, you say that they brought it upon themselves? Then why did they all end up going for Long Chun instead of someone else? Isn't it precisely because Long Chun is fated to be this world's most wicked person? He creates conflicts with everyone. I guarantee that the world will never know peace while he is alive. He is the worst culprit in the current Martial Heaven Alliance's chaos, said the unfettered all-seer. You fucking dash! The old man suddenly charged forward with the heaven-splitting blade, but Chu Jianying, who had long since been prepared, suddenly grabbed onto him tightly. At the same time, other people came forward to grab his neck, legs, and arms. Brother Wu, calm down. Now isn't the time to attack, said the elder, holding the old man's neck. They were old acquaintances. Let go of me. What group are you from? I'm going to kill these damn tortoise bastards and turn them into turtle jelly, roared the old man. The tense atmosphere ended up becoming strange when the old man said turtle jelly. It was unexpected that the berserk heaven-splitting battle sex master actually had a humorous side. However, Chu Jianying and the others continued to hold on to him tightly. When the heaven-splitting battle sex people's heads turned hot, they would even dare to attack a god. The unfettered all-seer's expression sank upon being cursed like this. He was about to say something when Ma Ruyun suddenly said, "Fighting like this is meaningless. There's also no need for anyone to act like they're confused about the truth. You say that Long Chun is a fiend, you say that he is colluding with the original devil race, you say that he is the Martial Heaven Alliance's calamity, but it is only your side that is saying this. What proof do you have? Do you think you can convict anyone you point at? Perhaps you feel that way because you have the power to do so. In this world, there are conditions to being able to talk reason with someone. A wolf won't talk reason with a rabbit, and a dragon won't talk reason with a lion. The power difference between the two sides is too immense, so there is no need to talk reason. You were willing to start a fight because you felt that you were strong enough. But now that my Huayun sect is supporting the Martial Heaven Alliance, if you still feel that you are strong enough, then there's no need to waste any more words. You can begin this war right now. In any case, we're equally matched, so both sides will bleed. Then when the Dark Era comes, we can all be annihilated together and that will be the end. That's right, either fuck off or fight. Come, come, shouted the old man immediately. Those on Pill Valley's side retreated, no longer wanting a war. When the war started, they would all suffer so they could smell a scheme. Moreover, many of them had connections with the Huayun sect. If they offended the Huayun sect, they would definitely have some harsh days ahead of them. Due to various factors, they became hesitant. Although Ma Ruyun wasn't a large or imposing figure, standing there, it was like everything was in his control. In comparison to Yu Xiaoyun, he looked more kingly. Ma Ruyun stood there, calmly looking at Yu Xiaoyun. There were over 100 Nether Passage experts behind him who didn't make a sound. In truth, the Huayun sect had 4 assistant sect masters, and it was usually those assistant sect masters that handled things in the outside world. Ma Ruyun was someone who many knew the name of but few had ever seen. However, Ma Ruyun had personally come here with 500 Nether Passage experts. That was the greatest display of power that the Huayun sect had shown in all of its history. The most terrifying power in this world wasn't talent, it wasn't magical arts, it wasn't battle skills, it wasn't divine abilities. It was wealth. The Huayun sect's auction houses were spread throughout every corner of this world. After so many years of business, it was unknown just how much wealth they had accumulated. With such wealth, they had to have secretly groomed their own power. The vision of businessmen always had to be looking ahead. They definitely wouldn't have just groomed themselves into being larger and larger sheep to be slaughtered. As long as it had money, even a sheep could become a ruler. It could even employ a pack of wolves as bodyguards. In this world, money wasn't everything, but not having money was doom. No matter how great someone's talent, without money to support it, it would mean nothing. If a genius of painting didn't even have the money to buy a brush, they would naturally be overlooked. Someone mediocre could be raised to a certain level as long as they had a teacher and the wealth to support themselves. The reason the Huayun sect dared to challenge Pill Valley was because they were in control of that terrifying power wealth. In truth, whether it was Pill Valley or the Huayun sect, there was no way to estimate their wealth or their foundation. So no one was willing to offend them. The Huayun sect and Pill Valley had both expressed their attitudes now. The corrupt path, the ancient races, the ancient family alliance, the Shen beasts, the Bloodkill Hall, even Heavenly Fate Island, they all hesitated. If they offended the Huayun sect, they wouldn't be able to sell their wares or buy what they needed. However, in comparison to the other leaders, the corrupt path's leader, Xia Wentian, was still calm. He hadn't revealed much shock at all. At this time, he suddenly said, "Today, to give face to Sect Master Ma, the corrupt path will retreat from this place. However, Long Chun and his Dragonblood Legion must be slain by the corrupt path, so I hope you can give me an answer." Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Xia Wentian was actually the first to compromise. However, Ma Ruyun wasn't surprised at all. He knew that if a battle were to start here, even if the Martial Heaven Alliance was destroyed, it would only be a third of its sum. There was still another 2/3 of the righteous path that had not joined. They would ally themselves with Pill Valley, and Pill Valley would try to mediate things between the righteous path and the corrupt path, making them both take a step back and settle their differences. However, that was impossible. The hatred between the righteous path and the corrupt path could not be mediated. Furthermore, the righteous path was crafty and wily, and they would definitely play tricks. Sooner or later, the corrupt path would end up at a loss. It was better for them to maintain the current fractured state of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Pill Valley would make sure the Martial Heaven Alliance's interior was kept chaotic, while the corrupt path could just watch. To have become the leader of the corrupt path, Xia Wentian was no fool. He knew that if he followed along with Pill Valley's plan, the only one to benefit in the end was Pill Valley. The other powers would become Pill Valley's subordinates. No one wanted to be used by others, and this current state of the board had already been very profitable to the corrupt path. Pulling out here was perfect timing, and he even had a perfect excuse by saying he was giving the Huayun sect face. The battle between the righteous path and the corrupt path has been going on for many years. The hatred that has been built up can't be resolved by anyone. As the Huayun sect is just a business, we won't bother with such things. We just want the Martial Heaven continent to maintain at least a peaceful appearance on the surface. That will allow us to make enough money to feed ourselves. I, Ma Ruyun, will represent the Huayun sect and its millions of disciples in thanking you, said Ma Ruyun. The Huayun sect's people were all businessmen at their core. As long as they were facing their clients, the former would view the latter as their livelihood and wouldn't treat them with the slightest arrogance or airs. It was precisely because the Huayun sect was so polite that many people had assumed that their power wasn't very great. But now their opinions had completely changed. The 500 experts that Ma Ruyun had brought weren't just to support the Martial Heaven Alliance, but they were also a show of power. They were warning those eyeing the Huayun sect. Seeing that the Huayun sect didn't care if the corrupt path continued to hunt Long Chun, Xie Wentian cupped his fists. Saying goodbye to Yu Xiaoyun, he turned and left. Over 200 Nether Passage experts of the corrupt path also left with him. Yu Xiaoyun's expression was a bit dark. He had already guessed what Xie Wentian was thinking. The current state of affairs was most beneficial to Xie Wentian, so he wanted to maintain it. That's fine, now that things have reached this point, we've already won. There's no way that Long Chun and his Dragonblood Legion will be able to escape the net we have established. Forcing things at this point clearly isn't wise. The unfettered All-Seer sent a message to Yu Xiaoyun. The High Priest and Ma Ruyun's arrival had caused the board to change. The majority of these people's anger had faded to be replaced with calm heads. So both of them had lost their chance to use that anger to start a war. Despite that, they had still won. Once the Dragonblood Legion and Long Chun were eliminated, the Martial Heaven Alliance would be nothing to fear. Without so many genius disciples, it would only be a few years before they declined. Don't forget, they have tens of thousands of people that participated in the Life and Death Tides comprehension. Even if we kill Long Chun, they will still be a threat once they grow up, replied Yu Xiaoyun. There's no need to worry. Apply pressure from the outside and buy them from the inside bit by bit. If they can't be bought, isn't the Bloodkill Hall right there? Those talented disciples can disappear one by one, and once the pressure is great enough, they will naturally submit, said the unfettered All-Seer indifferently. Yu Xiaoyun nodded. Turning to Ma Ruyun and Chu Jianying, he said, since that's the case, let's make an agreement. Long Chun and the Dragonblood Legion have colluded with the original devil race to slaughter the disciples of the various powers. They are enemies of the entire continent and must be eliminated. We will hunt them down, and no one is allowed to block us, or they will also be viewed as enemies. The other experts that Yu Xiaoyun had brought nodded. They had lost far too many disciples this time. They had to do something or their morale would crumble. Fuck off. My heaven-splitting battle sect doesn't agree. You want to bully my children? Then you'll have to step over my corpse first, shouted the old man. Calm down. This is just a stopgap. We have to first ensure that this battle doesn't occur. Li Tianxian hastily sent a message to him. They had to first agree to this. Once this army left, there were still many ways that they could protect Long Chun. That's also unacceptable. I'm not going to let the children be wronged like this, shouted the old man. Li Tianxian sighed. The heaven-splitting battle sex people were as difficult to talk to as ever. Useless cowards, what are you afraid of? You might be afraid, but I'm not. The old man suddenly pointed the heaven-splitting blade at Yu Xiaoyun. I, Wu Guangyuan, declare that as long as I have breath in my body, no one should even think about bullying my children. After saying that, the old man left. It was unknown if he was going to find Long Chun or if he simply didn't want to keep talking to others here. If he was threatening an ordinary sect, they definitely wouldn't dare to target Long Chun. However, Yu Xiaoyun and the others could not be threatened. Although the old man was powerful, he wasn't smart enough. A good trap could easily kill him. Their main goal was still Long Chun. What do we do? Chu Jianying surprisingly sent Li Tianxian a question. Li Tianxian had always been wise, so Chu Jianying wanted to hear his opinion. After all, Long Chun was a disciple of the Shen-Tian Dao sect. Agree to their request. Expel Long Chun and the Dragonblood Legion from the Shen-Tian Dao sect and the Martial Heaven Alliance, said Li Tianxian without hesitation. How am I supposed to do that? It's completely unfair to Long Chun, raged Chu Jianying. Has your anger clouded your judgment? Weren't you the one who said it was a stopgap? Today he is expelled, and tomorrow he can rejoin, said Li Tianxian. Why did these seniors of his not know how to think in a roundabout manner? But they will. Don't worry. No one can kill Long Chun, guaranteed Li Tianxian. However, inside he was definitely worried. A heaven defier wouldn't die to the hands of a human because they never had that chance. But the people beside Long Chun weren't heaven defiers. If Long Chun would rather die with his Dragonblood Legion, then he would be killing himself. The reason those heaven defiers of history never died to other people's hands was because they were always lonely, isolated figures with nothing tying them down. But Long Chun was different, and his weakness was apparent. However, if they did not accept this condition, this matter would not be left like this. If they did start fighting, they would be going along with Yu Xiaoyun's plan. Chu Jianying bitterly smiled. The old man would probably hate her for this, but she was the only one who could play the bad person in this case. I hereby announce that Long Chun and the Dragonblood Legion are no longer disciples of the Martial Heaven Alliance, said Chu Jianying. She felt her own head spinning and her heart dripping blood. Long Chun had already done so much for the Martial Heaven Alliance, and she was actually forcing Long Chun to carry this burden on his own. She herself felt despicable. Yu Xiaoyun was surprised that Chu Jianying would do this. That didn't match her character. Suddenly glancing at Li Tianxian, he understood. Unacceptable. Senior apprentice brother Long Chun is a righteous and loyal hero. He and his Dragonblood Legion protected us without caring about their own lives. Alliance head, how can we expel them? That is completely unfair. The disciples that had come out of the Yin-Yang world immediately went crazy. Chu Jianying's announcement immediately made the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples erupt into chaos. They could not accept this. Alliance head, you can't do this. Senior apprentice brother is the pillar of the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples. In the battles against the corrupt path, just how many of their top experts did he kill? Don't you think doing so would hurt senior apprentice brother Long Chun? Shouted a short but thick man. In particular, his legs were especially thick. This person was the third commander who had once challenged Long Chun, but had ended up being won over by him. He was the first to oppose Chu Jianying's decision to expel Long Chun. Alliance head, senior apprentice brother Long Chun led us through a death trap. We might be pressured by powerful enemies, but even if we die, we can't succumb to their threats, said the fourth commander. Silence. The Alliance head's decisions cannot be changed by you, shouted one of the elders of the Martial Heaven Alliance. The disciples were infuriated, but Yi Lingshan held them back. We have to respect the Alliance head's decisions. Senior apprentice sister Lingshan, you. Now, even Qingqing was disappointed. They were infuriated, but they could only suppress their feelings. They weren't strong enough and weren't qualified to participate in such a heavy decision. Are you satisfied now? Chu Jianying glared daggers at Yu Xiaoyun. She knew that what Yu Xiaoyun wanted was this promise. This way, Long Chun would have nowhere to go. They could hunt him down to the ends of the world. Originally, she couldn't force herself to make this decision, but Li Tianxian pushed her to do it. That was the only way to resolve the current situation. However, this was sacrificing Long Chun. If you had known this would happen, would you have still acted so willfully from the start? If you hadn't selfishly tried to protect Long Chun, you wouldn't have to suffer today, and there wouldn't be so many geniuses that died such miserable deaths. That's all the consequences of your own actions. Yu Xiaoyun shook his head, sighing. Yu Xiaoyun. Having gotten what he wanted, he actually pushed the responsibility onto others. Chu Jianying unsheathed her sword and pointed it at Yu Xiaoyun, longing to cut him into a million pieces. This person was too sinister, too shameless. Valley Master Yu, it's still too early to say who is right and who is wrong. In this world, the truth cannot become false, and the false cannot turn true. Even if you can cover it up for a while, the truth will be exposed sooner or later. When that time comes, whose name goes down in history for infamy or fame will be decided, said Li Tianxian with a polite smile. Although amongst these higher-ups Li Tianxian was just a junior, he possessed a natural calm to him. His intelligence made others not dare to look down on him. Although his words were rather ambiguous, everyone present could tell that he was indicating that slandering Long Chun would only work for a while. The truth would come out sooner or later. It was well said. There was no proof that Long Chun had betrayed the Martial Heaven continent and colluded with the original devil race. Hill Valley was merely using power to force that reality. They didn't give Long Chun any chance to explain. In order to avoid having the entire world destroyed, the Martial Heaven Alliance had submitted. But when the truth revealed itself, the Martial Heaven Alliance would have the power to wash away that disgrace. This was all in preparation for that moment. I've long since heard that the Shentian Dao sect was led by a wise young leader. As expected, he's not ordinary. Ma Ruyun looked at Li Tianxian with a smile. That's correct. Regretfully, he's not part of our Huayun sect. Otherwise, we would be able to suppress Pill Valley in less than 10 years, said an elder standing beside Ma Ruyun. This elder was one of the Huayun sect's 4 assistant sect masters, Hua Mingxiong. He was also Zhang Wenlong's direct superior. However, Wenlong is good as well. He shows promise and is quite daring while having a good head and heart. However, he's still too young and needs more tempering. Give him some more authority in the future. Don't stifle his development, said Ma Ruyun. Yes. Hua Mingxiong smiled. Ma Ruyun rarely paid attention to the matters within the Huayun sect these days. Although there were 4 vice-sect masters, the other 3 were in charge of their own businesses, while he, Hua Mingxiong, oversaw the overall development of the Huayun sect. Many people had come to think that he was the true leader of the Huayun sect. Hua Mingxiong was very fond of Zhang Wenlong and treated him like his own apprentice. Hearing that Ma Ruyun also had such a high opinion of Zhang Wenlong, he was delighted. True gold isn't afraid of being tempered by fire. My Pill Valley is simply trying to protect the Martial Heaven continent. We're not afraid of being criticized or cursed for our actions, said Yu Xiaoyun righteously. However, he didn't bring up anything about Long Chen's innocence. He merely stated Pill Valley's attitude. In other words, it didn't matter whether or not Long Chen had colluded with the original devil race. As long as there was a threat to the Martial Heaven continent, he would rather slay 1,000 innocents than let off one criminal. Even if they killed the wrong person, they were still doing it with the Martial Heaven continent at heart. They had a noble reason, so the people would understand them. Then let's wait and see. I think that time will prove everything. Li Tianxian smiled slightly despite Yu Xiaoyun's shameless quibbling. Let's wait and see. Yu Xiaoyun snorted, waving his hand and bringing his people away. The other leaders first said some words to Hua Mingxiong before taking their leave as well. After all, they weren't Pill Valley, and there were many areas where they needed the Huayun sect's cooperation. Since a fight hadn't started, they could continue that cooperation. Ma Ruyun rarely showed himself, but Hua Mingxiong was someone that many of them knew. The various experts began to leave one by one. In the end, Clearwind City returned to calm. Due to the protection of the Nether Passage experts, the battle in the sky hadn't affected the city. The old man and Yu Xiaoyun's most powerful exchange had been stopped by the high priest, so Clearwind City wasn't damaged. The experts that had fled from Clearwind City slowly returned. Many thanks for your assistance, Sect Master Ma. Only now did Chu Jianying have a chance to express her thanks toward Ma Ruyun. If it weren't for him, with such a power disparity, Yu Xiaoyun wouldn't have let go of this chance to deal a heavy blow to the Martial Heaven Alliance. Alliance Head Chu, you're too courteous. Businessmen like us are most afraid of war. If there was a war, we'd have to beg just to survive. So you shouldn't thank me, but thank yourselves. If you really want to thank me, then buy a bit more so I can make a bit more money. Ma Ruyun smiled. I will remember this favor, promised Chu Jianying. Then I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Everyone, I hope you can remember this small shop owner when conducting your business in the future. Ma Ruyun laughed and brought his 500 Nether Passage experts away. Once everyone else had scattered, the Nether Passage experts of the Martial Heaven Alliance gathered in the Martial Heaven Palace. Chu Jianying expressed her thanks to these people that had come at such a time. Only at this time was it possible to see who was truly dependable. Sect Master Li, don't you feel like what we've done is letting down Long Chen? Once everyone was seated, Chu Jianying turned to Li Tianxian. There was no other choice. As one grows stronger, so does one's responsibilities. However, I believe that Long Chen will definitely understand and that he is capable of carrying this burden, said Li Tianxian. Then what should we do now? Send people to protect Long Chen secretly? Asked Chu Jianying. No, it's already too late for that. Based on Yu Xiaoyun and the unfettered Allseer's past schemes, They wouldn't have come unprepared. Li Tianxian shook his head. That startled everyone. Then do you mean? Li Tianxian sighed. First of all, the time at which Yu Xiaoyun came to the Martial Heaven Alliance is off. They arrived half an incense stick's worth of time later than I expected. They had definitely made some arrangements within that time. Long Chen's escape should be within their expectations. So running actually puts Long Chen in their trap. What? Then why did you make him run? Demanded Chu Jianying. If Long Chen didn't go, then even with the High Priest's warning and Sect Master Ma's reinforcements, there would have been no way to avoid this war. The truth is, while one of their goals is to kill Long Chen, their main goal was to instigate this war. If that happened, the Martial Heaven Alliance would be ruined, and the stragglers wouldn't have the power to threaten Pill Valley. If that war had started, then no matter who won, both sides would take heavy losses. However, our losses would definitely be greater, because we have only gathered a third of the Martial Heaven Alliance. If our members shrink any more, those righteous sects still watching from the sidelines will immediately lean toward Pill Valley. Our power cannot defeat the sum of the corrupt path, ancient races, ancient family alliance, Shen beasts, and the Bloodkill Hall. Even if everyone lost half their people, it isn't something we could endure. That's also why Yu Xiaoyun wanted this battle so badly. So as long as we fought, no matter the result, we would still lose. The only one capable of stopping that worst-case scenario was Long Chen, said Li Tianxian. But Long Chen is just a soul transformation disciple. The ones hunting him down are all Nether Passage experts. Just how is he supposed to do anything? Demanded others. That's another thing I don't know. But I believe that the fact that Long Chen could reach his current height is no coincidence. I trust him, said Li Tianxian. That's no good. I'm not going to let a child carry this burden while we sit here like a tortoise. We'll just have to change our appearance and cover up our identities. Quite a few Nether Passage experts immediately stood up. They felt that this was too unjust for Long Chen. It's already too late. The moment Long Chen left Clearwind City, he entered their trap. Right now, the fate of the Martial Heaven continent is in his hands. As for us, the only thing we can do is wait for news from Long Chen. Li Tianxian muttered as he looked in the direction where Long Chen had run. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow pierced through space rapidly. Long Chen, where are we going? Asked Meng Qi. Just go straight toward the Eastern Sea. Meng Qi, it'll be hard on you, but maintain your spiritual senses. If you sense any powerful auras, immediately avoid them. Long Chen's expression was grave. What is the matter? Asked Emonian. Have you forgotten? The main conspirators behind this scheme are Pill Valley and Heavenly Fate Island. Considering their characters, how could they let us run? We'll definitely run into obstructions on our way, so everyone should be prepared, said Long Chen. Fuck, no way. I just started being a good person, and I'm getting hunted down for it? I was able to get around when it was just me, but as soon as I go with you, I end up like this, cursed Emonian. He thought about how free he had been by himself. Now that he was fighting for the Martial Heaven Alliance, the Martial Heaven Alliance actually couldn't protect him. Long Chen smiled. Don't be resentful. As my brother, if I don't con you, who else am I going to con? Ah, that's true. Hearing this, the curious thing was that Emonian actually smiled. But there's one thing I don't understand. Why aren't you angry? Why would I be angry? I'm grateful for what I have. I'm a disciple of the Shen-Tian Dao sect. Without the Shen-Tian Dao sect, I wouldn't have my current achievements. The Heaven-Splitting Battle sect is also my sect, and without the old man's care, I might have long since died. Chu Jianying is the old man's partner, and she cares so much about me she is willing to become enemies with the various powers of the world. In truth, although this war had been brewing for a long time thanks to certain people's schemes, if it weren't for me, Senior Chu Jianying wouldn't be forced into such a passive position. As men, if we dare to cause trouble, we have to accept the consequences. We can't retreat from this, nor can we blame God or others. Said Long Chen righteously. Stop. If you keep talking, I'll look like a petty little person who forgets favors in comparison. I admit that you're right. Okay? Emonian waved his hand in front of Long Chen. In terms of eloquence, he couldn't compare to Long Chun. His conning ability was truly spectacular. Suddenly, Cloud's body turned. Everyone shook, almost falling. "It's as you said, Long Chun. There are experts trying to block us." "I had Cloud avoid them," said Meng Qi, who was standing atop Cloud's head, her expression grave. "What level are they?" asked Ammonian. "I'm not sure. As soon as I sensed them, I had Cloud avoid them." "Without thinking about it, since they were sent to stop us, they have to be Nether Passage experts," said Long Chen. Suddenly, Cloud began turning rapidly through the air. Meng Qi's expression changed. "Not good. The path ahead has been fully blocked. There's 3 people ahead, and we have to charge past one of them." "You pick one," said Long Chen. "Curious. How did they know where we'd run?" asked Ammonian. "You're underestimating Heavenly Fate Island too much. For their island master to even personally come out, even if we have divine items protecting us, they should still be able to read some slight clues. If they didn't have that little bit of power, Heavenly Fate Island wouldn't have achieved their current position with just scams," said Longchen. "Jiqiu, Ammonian, Zifeng, come to the front. Prepare your attacks. Whether or not we can charge past is dependent on this strike." Although Chuyao, Lu Ruyan, and the others were also very powerful, they weren't sharp enough. If too many people attacked at once, the heavenly Tao energy in the surrounding space would become sparse. Long Chun and Yu Zifeng weren't Empyreans, and just Yi Jiqiu and Ammonian were enough. Any more and it would affect their attack power. "Cloud, slow down and prepare yourself." Long Chun took a deep breath. He raised his hand, and a black flame lotus began to condense in his hand. Following that, sacred chanting began to resound through the air. The entire world felt like it had been ignited. Endless flame energy gathered into the flame lotus. The flame lotus had 9 petals, and each petal had a black sphere form at the top. As more flame energy was absorbed, runes began to light up along the petals, sending the flame energy to the spheres at the top of the petals. A terrifying aura slowly rose, growing stronger and stronger. The flame lotus also grew until it was gigantic. World Annihilation Flame Lotus. Long Chun suddenly flung the flame lotus through the air. Once he threw it out, Cloud sped up to follow it. The 2 of them charged through the air. Sacred chanting continued to resound through the air, and the flame lotus only grew larger. Just a moment later, they saw a giant net of twisting black and white energy. At the center of the net was an elder sitting in meditation. He had actually used his life and death energy to lock this space down. There were also Nether Passage experts to his distant left and right to make sure that no one could get past. When he sensed the flame lotus, the elder's eyes popped upon. With a snort, a blade appeared in his hand. Divine light flashed. Boom! The 9 black spheres on the top of the lotus exploded. A terrifying explosion erupted. The elder's arm shook. He was surprised that this flame lotus possessed such explosive power. He was actually knocked back a few steps, and the net behind him trembled. At the same time, Long Chun, Yi Jiqiu, Ammonian, and Yu Zifeng attacked. 2 rays of sword chi, a saber image, and an arrow shot out. Not good. This strike was perfectly timed with the flame lotus. Hence, the elder had no chance to recollect himself. His blade rumbled and divine runes flew out. Boom! His hasty block didn't even have half his true power. He was knocked back, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. It had to be known that this combined strike from Long Chan, Ammonian, Yi Jiqiu, and Yu Zifeng was something that even a Nether Passage expert couldn't take lightly, let alone receive with just half their power. However, a Nether Passage expert was still powerful. Although he had been injured, the net behind him didn't break. "Cloud!" shouted Long Chun. Runes suddenly appeared in Cloud's eyes. 2 rays of light shot out, striking his net. "Humph! You think you can break my domain? Keep dreaming." The elder was shocked and enraged. To be injured by soul transformation disciples was an insult. Although this injury was nothing to him, it still infuriated him. Seeing Cloud attack his net, which was a condensation of his life and death domain, he snorted. His blade slashed down. However, unexpectedly, when Cloud's attack landed, it formed a ripple that spread to form a giant black hole. Cloud's body entered the ripple and then vanished. The Elder's blade landed on thin air. His life and death domain was still present, but Long Chun and the others had already vanished. But how is that possible? The Elder was dumbfounded. He suddenly thought of a kind of divine ability that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow possessed that could ignore spatial bindings. The heaven-swallowing voidbreaker. However, the heaven-swallowing voidbreaker divine ability could only be used by descendants that possessed extremely pure bloodlines. Furthermore, they had to have advanced to the 11th rank first. These two requirements were a must, and yet Cloud had done it at just the 10th rank. Damn it, they got away. At this moment, the two other Nether Passage experts rushed over. The plan had been for the three of them to cooperate. Together, Long Chun and the others stood no chance. However, this flawless plan had actually met with failure. Looking at the direction Long Chun had gone, they didn't know what to do. Do we chase? That's no good. The cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow's speed is number 1 in the world. Even the Golden Pung race has to concede defeat in that regard, so there's no way we can catch up. Hurry and report what happened here. Have the higher-ups think of something, said the injured Nether Passage expert. Sighing, he had no choice but to admit that he had been too careless. Ha ha ha! Success! Immersive laughed. The others sighed, relaxing. Long Chun, what is it? Meng Qi saw that Long Chun wasn't smiling. I keep feeling like something's wrong. Long Chun shook his head. Li Tianxian had told him that no one could calculate anything about him. If others were with him, their fates were linked with his, so Heavenly Fate Island shouldn't be able to calculate anything about Immersive or Yijiqiu either. Therefore, they shouldn't be able to track their location and direction so easily. Fuck! What is this? Long Chun. You've all been expelled from the Martial Heaven Alliance. Immersive suddenly took out a jade plate on his waist. Yes, I know. I discussed it with the Shen Master before leaving. This is the only way to resolve the current crisis. Long Chun nodded. What the fuck? Haven't you become everyone's target then? Immersive was speechless. I'm used to it. We would have left the Shen Dao sect and the Martial Heaven Alliance sooner or later. Leaving now or later makes no difference, said Long Chun. Meng Qi, help me examine everyone spiritually. See if anyone left a spiritual mark on us. However, even after a couple of hours, Meng Qi shook her head. She hadn't found anything odd, making Long Chun frown. This kind of result meant that they either weren't tracking them this way, or whoever had done it was at such a supreme level that even Meng Qi's spiritual strength was unable to expose them. After hours of flight, Cloud had already crossed the eastern Shen region and reached the Martial Heaven Searing. Cloud's speed was truly amazing. Boom! Suddenly, the seawater exploded. A giant sea demon charged out, trying to bite Cloud. It was actually a shocking 12th rank sea demon. It had a pair of wings and suddenly flew out of the sea. This strange sea demon's mouth was exceptionally large and filled with sharp teeth. However, it had just flown out when Cloud opened its mouth, and a black light sword pierced through its head. It was killed in one blow. Cloud had refined the blue-eye peacock's essence blood, and her divine abilities only grew stronger, to the point where she could one-shot a 12th rank magical beast. Of course, sea demons were not magical beasts. Sea demons without any special bloodline only had average power. Compared to 12th rank magical beasts on the land, they were quite a bit weaker. Long Chun waved his hand, collecting the sea demon's corpse and tossing it into the black soil of the primal chaos space. The corpse was rapidly consumed, and life energy spread throughout the primal chaos space. The yin-yang immortal grass at the border between the black soil and the yellow soil finally showed some faint signs of recovery. Right now, for him to use the 7th form of split, the heavens required using the power of the yin-yang immortal grass to bear the impact. The yin-yang immortal grass had helped him out immensely during the previous battle. It had withered in the last fight, and it only recovered the slightest bit from the corpse of a 12th rank sea demon. There was still quite a distance before it was fully recovered. Not good. We've been surrounded. Meng Qi's expression suddenly changed. What happened? Asked Longchen. Perhaps you're right and someone did mark us. There are experts gathering from every direction. There's no way we can escape, said Meng Qi. If there was no mark on them, then there was no way they could so accurately track their position. There were over 20 Nether Passage experts that had formed an arc ahead of them, completely blocking their path. Wanting to avoid them, Meng Qi had then sensed over 10 powerful auras blocking them off at the rear. Every single one of their movements was clearly within the control of their opponents. Longchen's guess was correct, but unfortunately, Meng Qi's power was limited, and she couldn't find just what mark had been placed on them. Mo Nian Jiqiu, it's going to be hard on you. Help me stall them. Long Chun suddenly jumped into the sea. Upon jumping into the sea, he immediately saw a tiger wing white shark, a 10th rank sea demon. His spiritual strength stretched out, and he instantly took control of it. He made it swallow him and then swim into the distance. The tiger wing white shark was extremely quick in the water. Quickly shot through the water, and not a moment too soon. The seawater behind him suddenly trembled intensely, and a wall of runes sealed that space. Long Chun had managed to leave in time. Any later and he would have been trapped. Hurry, hurry! Long Chun urged the tiger wing white shark to swim at its highest speed. At the same time, he closed his eyes and tried to sense something. As he shot through the water, the feeling he was trying to sense grew stronger. Very quickly, he saw ripples appear in the water before him. A giant dragon scale was floating at the depths of the sea. The tiger wing white shark didn't dare to get anywhere near that scale. It struggled, actually fighting against Long Chen's control. Its fear toward the dragon scale was making it break out of his control. Long Chun released the tiger wing white shark, and it immediately fled for its life. Long Chun could only swim over with his own power. Once he got closer to the white scale, he felt its terror. This scale was like a sealed volcano. Once it erupted, it could destroy the world. Are you really planning on taking it? That's a true dragon's reverse scale. True dragons are supreme existences amongst the dragon race. Your chances of succeeding with your current power are less than a tenth. And if you fail, you will instantly be blown to bits, said Evil Moon. There's no other choice. You're sealed by the sovereign seal and can only use your power through me. Due to my cultivation base, you can't unleash your full power. To save my brothers. This is the only way. Long Chun looked at the dragon scale that was just floating there motionlessly. Without hesitation, he reached out to touch it. His clothes instantly blew apart, and an irresistible pressure crashed down on him. Cracks spread throughout his entire body, and he almost exploded. Long Chen, give up. This is just the first wave. There's no way you can succeed, shouted Evil Moon. No, I will succeed. There is no other way. Long Chun took a deep breath. With a glint of determination in his eyes, he placed his other hand on the dragon scale as well. Long Chen's flesh exploded. Other than his head, his entire body was nothing more than a skeleton. Long Chun. Evil Moon was shocked. This dragon scale was even more terrifying than it had expected. Based on this, Long Chun had no chance of subduing it. Right now, Long Chun was just trying to form a connection with the dragon scale. He hadn't even activated its will yet, but he was already on the verge of collapse. To subdue a true dragon's reverse scale required using your own will and fully releasing the true dragon's will. Forcing things like this was simply suicide. Break! Long Chun roared, and the dragon scale suddenly began to blaze with light. A sacred dragon pressure erupted. Cracks covered Long Chen's skeleton. It looked like he would explode at any moment. It's over. Long Chen's definitely dead. Evil Moon sighed. Just how was a soul transformation disciple supposed to endure this kind of power? As the dragon pressure grew stronger, the seafloor cracked and the world shuddered. Just what dragon did this scale come from? How can it be so terrifying? As the pressure grew greater, Evil Moon became increasingly shocked. Azure dragons were what adult true dragons were called. As for green dragons, they were babies. The difference between the two was like a heavenly chasm. The green dragon's reverse scale fell off naturally, but the azure dragon reverse scale would only molt when the azure dragon went through its tribulation and ascended to a higher level. This dragon scale contained the dragon's will to contend against the heavenly Daos. It wouldn't even submit to the heavenly Daos, so what could possibly make it submit? However, Long Chun refused to believe this reality, wanting to use his own will to suppress the azure dragon's will. The current Long Chun had no idea what was happening around him. In his mental world, heaven and earth were crumbling. A giant azure dragon coiled through collapsing space, while Long Chun was floating in the air, looking at it. He had to win. The azure dragon in his mind let out a roar, and Long Chen's felt like his soul was about to shatter. He knew he was on the verge of death. Submit! Long Chen also roared. He wasn't aware of this, but at that moment, his skeleton had already shattered. He was left with just his head. Submit! 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 In Long Chen's mental realm, his roar resounded through the air. He was clashing with that supreme dragon might. As he roared, the stars in the sky of his mental world shook, as if each one was resonating with his words. Suddenly, the dragon in his mind vanished. Long Chen's head floated in front of the scale, his eyes closed. The dragon scale slowly floated toward Long Chen's head. Divine light flowed out of it, and the dragon scale actually began to crumble, with sand-like particles falling off of it and merged into Long Chen's head. His skeleton slowly grew back out. It's rebuilding his skeleton? Evil Moon let out a startled cry. The azure dragon reverse scale was the most precious part of the azure dragon. For Long Chun to be using it to rebuild his skeleton, he would truly be transformed afterward. Evil Moon didn't know what had happened. The azure dragon reverse scale was simply disintegrating and merging into Long Chen's body, rebuilding it. His new skeleton was white as jade and sparkled brightly, possessed a terrifying pressure. When his skeleton was fully rebuilt, the final grain of the dragon scale was used up. However, as the dragon scale vanished, it was replaced with a fist-sized drop of blood. Azure Dragon Essence Blood. That scarlet drop of blood possessed a terrifying aura. It was like the energy within this single drop could destroy the entire world. The essence blood slowly merged into Long Chen's body. His skeleton became covered in tiny runes that looked like small dragons coiling around the bones. Flesh quickly grew out of his bones. Even his organs reappeared. In just a dozen breaths' time, his body had recovered and looked like it did before. However, there was a white dragon image in the middle of Long Chen's chest now. It was constantly coiling, and each time it spun around, Long Chen's blood chi would pulse. Damn, he might be unstoppable now, muttered Evil Moon. Just as the azure dragon reverse scale completely rebuilt Long Chen's body, within the endless void, a giant eye slowly opened. That eye was larger than the surrounding stars. It looked through the cosmos, eyeing a small speck of dust in the great distance. Too slow. At this rate, you'll be killed before you even grow up. That's not in line with a 9-star heir. Long Chun, come out and fight. Long Chun had just dived into the martial heaven searing when an angry roar rang out. That voice was very familiar. Suddenly, runes lit up throughout the sky and sea. Over 30 Nether Passage experts appeared, sealing the surrounding space. This time, they had formed 3 groups of over 10 people, each group forming their own formation and creating 3 layers. After their previous carelessness, they wouldn't allow Long Chun and the others to escape again. After being surrounded, a figure appeared in front of them, startling them. They all recognized this person. Hualayun! Startled cries rang out. This person was Hualayun, but he was surrounded by blazing flames, and his aura was completely different. He actually broke through to the Life-Star realm, exclaimed Emonyen. The current Hualayun had a starry image on his forehead. He had not just broken through to Life-Star, but his cultivation base had also stabilized at the first heaven stage. He was different from those Life-Star Empyreans in the Yin-Yang world. Those Life-Star Empyreans had just gone through their tribulations, and their power hadn't stabilized yet. Due to time constraints, they had joined the battle before their cultivation bases stabilized. They had been unable to fully unleash the power of the Lifestar realm. But Hualayun had not just broken through, he had also managed to fully stabilize his cultivation base at the first heaven stage of Lifestar. Long Chun, come out and face your death, roared Hualayun. His mission in the Inyang world had ended in complete failure. Over 2 million disciples had turned into 37 people managing to barely escape with their lives. That couldn't just be described as failure. It was a catastrophic defeat. They had almost been annihilated. He, true immortal Jiaoqi, and Xieluo had even joined hands but had been unable to defeat Longchen. That was a stain that he would never be able to wash away. Upon returning to the martial heaven continent, he had immediately chosen to go through his tribulation. He had already suppressed himself to the peak of the soul transformation realm for a long time, so he had long since possessed the ability to break through. If it hadn't been for the plan with the Inyang world, he would have long since broken through. Hence, as soon as it was over, he chose to advance. Due to being suppressed at the peak for so long, he instantly broke through to the first heaven stage. After stabilizing his energy, he immediately charged over here. However, only after he roared did he find that while the entire Dragonblood Legion was here, Long Chun was gone. "What's going on?" demanded Hualayun. "We're not sure. We don't know when Long Chun left," said one of the elders wearing the Flame Divine Palace's robes. All of them had ugly expressions. Long Chun had actually vanished at some point. If they couldn't kill him, he would become their nightmare. Emonyen sneered. "Fools, your goal was Long Chun? But after getting through the first blockade, Long Chun left. Did you think he was going to just let himself be blocked a second time? Humph, if Long Chun's run off, then we'll kill you first. There's nowhere for him to run anymore, so he'll be killed sooner or later," said Hualayun. His flame spear appeared in his hand, blazing with unprecedented divine power. "TCH, it seems that Long Chen's beating from last time wasn't enough to cure your illness. Is bragging so satisfying? Tell me, even if we were to stick our necks out for you to cut off, would you dare? Ignoring whether or not you can even kill us, even if we die to you, as long as Long Chen lives, you'll never be able to rest in peace. I understand Long Chen. For a normal person, 10 years isn't too late for revenge. For Long Chen, 20 years of continuous revenge is just the start. It's the kind of vengeance that chills you to the bone. Compared to Long Chen, I'm much more noble. At the very least, I just dig up graves, but Long Chun will make sure you don't have corpses to bury. Perhaps the current Long Chun can't contend against you, but what about your talented disciples? They'll be slaughtered to the last. After killing those geniuses, he'll then come for your old heads. I've been friends with Long Chun for many years, and I understand him far too well. Thinking about the results, I'm even a bit excited," said Emonyen, while holding the 5-element sun-hunting bow. The Nether Passage experts couldn't help feeling a chill. Although Emonyen's words were only to frighten them, they all knew just who Long Chun was. He was known for his ruthlessness. There was nothing that he didn't dare to do. From the eastern wasteland to the central plains, just how many geniuses had he slain? Just how many sects had he destroyed? Perhaps even Long Chun himself couldn't keep track of them. If the Dragonblood Legion was destroyed, there would be nothing holding him back. He would become a wild devil and a future calamity for their sects. "Humph! You think you can scare us? As long as we capture you, Long Chun will send himself to us." Hualayun smiled cruelly. "What an idiot! Do you think the Dragonblood Legion's people will go willingly with you? You think we'll let you turn us into hostages? You think the Dragonblood warriors are as cowardly as you?" Emonyen almost sneered. "Hualayun, you're underestimating the Dragonblood Legion too much. Even if we have to kill ourselves, we won't let you capture us alive. In any case, our boss will avenge us. Your sects will all be destroyed, so what do we have to be afraid of?" added Guaran. In the face of death, all the Dragonblood warriors were still calm without the slightest fear in their eyes. That calm was hair-raising. The Dragonblood Legion was called the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 Legion, and their most frightening aspect was their unity. They were completely unafraid of death. These nether passage experts were finally bearing witness to their terror. Humph, don't try to act tough. I don't believe there's anyone in this world really unafraid of dying, said Hualayun disdainfully. There are many things that you don't believe in that are true, said Ammonian. Taking out a strange object, he said, what about this? Do you believe me when I say that no matter what kind of heaven-encompassing net you've laid down, it won't be able to trap me, Ammonian? The earth-splitting divine shuttle. That object made these nether passage experts' expressions change. The earth-splitting divine shuttle was a supreme life-saving treasure. It was famous on the continent now, and it was basically unstoppable. It was an extremely shameless divine item that would break through any formation they laid down. Even nether passage experts couldn't stop it. You want Long Chun, but you can't get him. As for me, if I want to leave, you can't stop me, said Ammonian indifferently. Your earth-splitting divine shuttle can only fit a maximum of 5 people. Once you leave, the others will all die. I don't believe you would give yourself such infamy. Although that was what Hualayun said, his expression changed. The name of the Western wretch was not for nothing. Ammonian spent his days digging up tombs, and despite how many people he had infuriated, despite how many times he had been surrounded, he was still living happily. It was all thanks to the earth-splitting divine shuttle. Although he was infuriated, Hualayun had no choice but to admit that if Ammonian wanted to leave, no one could stop him. TCH, you really are an idiot. If Long Chun has left, why would I have to stay? I'll just help him in his revenge in the future. I won't just foolishly die with everyone. In the future, Long Chun will be in charge of killing the living ones, while I'll be in charge of digging up the dead ones. Bringing out your ancestral coffins to bask in the sunlight will be nice too, don't you think? Said Ammonian. Naturally, corpses were meant to be buried beneath the ground. They weren't supposed to see the sunlight. The corpses could rot, decay, and even affect the family's karmic luck. In the past, although Ammonian had gone grave digging, he hadn't done something like that because that was too cruel. Ammonian wasn't quite daring enough to do it. He was also afraid of being struck by karma. However, if he was forced to do it, he would. If others played a shameless move, he would play 20. They would see just who was afraid of who. The surrounding experts' expressions darkened. As expected of a wretch, they wanted to kill him right here and now. Any sect or family with such an ancient inheritance would have their own ancestral heroic spirit guarding it. If their corpses were brought out, that would be a grave blow to any sect or family's karmic luck. As for Ammonian, he could rob whoever's tomb he wanted. The Western Xian region's ancient family alliance had already suffered immensely. If Ammonian and Long Chun were to join hands, they would never find any peace in this world. The Nether Passage experts were simply dumbfounded for a while. They had thought that victory was already in their grasp. But now, they couldn't kill them and they couldn't capture them. They didn't know what to do. Humph, you might be able to con others, but you can't con me. I refuse to believe it. Even if you all die, we still have ways to force out Long Chin. As for Ammonian, we'll slaughter your Emo family to the last, sneered Hualayun. He wouldn't be threatened because Pill Valley had its gods and didn't need the protection of its ancestral heroic spirits. He wasn't afraid of Ammonian's grave robbing. Not giving Ammonian a chance to speak, Hualayun's spear suddenly pierced toward Ammonian. Hold it! Shouted Ammonian suddenly. What? Do you have any final words? Sneered Hualayun. Ammonian ignored his mocking, instead saying, How about we have a bet instead? Bet what? Asked Hualayun. You've advanced to the Life Star realm, while we're all at soul transformation. Let's have a challenge. We'll pick out 5 people from our side to fight you. If you win, we'll go peacefully. We won't resist, and you can use us as hostages. If you lose, I won't ask that you release us. I know that you don't have the authority to do that, so I won't make it hard on you. As long as you kneel down and call me daddy, that will be enough, said Ammonian. You're courting death. Hualayun was enraged by this naked slap in the face. He had already advanced to the Life Star realm, and he no longer viewed Ammonian and the others as a challenge. Is that supposed to be a yes or a no? Snorted Ammonian. If you have something to say, then say it. If you have a fart, then fart it. But wailing like a monkey is meaningless. Fine, I'll agree. Today I'll beat you black and blue. Hualayun angrily swung his spear. A spear image shot toward Emonyen. Emonyen hastily blocked with the 5-element sun-hunting bow. With a bang he was sent flying back, blood flowing from his mouth. He stared in shock at Hualayun. This was just a random blow from Hualayun, but it still wasn't something that Emonyen could block. Hualayun's manifestation appeared behind him, and 2 figures were present within it. Flame energy surged toward him. Let's see just who will be calling who daddy. Hualayun suddenly smashed his spear down along with the surrounding flame energy. This attack caused the void to boom, and even the nether passage experts were startled. Hualayun's manifestation shook. The 2 statues within it seemed to possess their own life now. His manifestation is just 1 step from being fully awakened. The nether passage experts let out startled cries. The current Hualayun was truly like a god of fire. There was one extremely strict requirement for fully awakening one's manifestation, and that was to at least have reached the life star realm. After breaking through, Hualayun's manifestation had increased in power, and the divine might coming out of it even affected these nether passage experts. Not good. This bastard's manifestation is completely crushing what heavenly Tao energy we can absorb, said Emonyen gravely. Now there wasn't just a cultivation-based difference. Even in terms of manifestation, they were completely crushed. Humph, one toad after another at the bottom of a well. In front of me, you're just ants. Just by myself, I can crush all of you, declared Hualayun. His flame spear exploded with light and pierced down toward them. Ijichio's ice sword unleashed a sky of ice and snow to block this fiery attack. However, the ice and snow instantly vanished in front of Hualayun's flames. Ijichio was then forced back 9 consecutive steps, her body covered in dense steam. Humph, do you think this is still the yin-yang world? My flame domain can melt all things. Your ice domain can't bear a single blow from me, shouted Hualayun. The 2 statues behind him suddenly formed hand seals, and flame energy enveloped the space. Yu Zifeng suddenly attacked. There was no pressure from his attack, but his sword chi contained the will of the sword. It tore through the sky, even splitting Hualayun's flame domain. Oh! Hualayun was startled. He hadn't thought that anyone's attack would be able to break his manifestation. He raised his spear. Boom! The sword chi shattered, but a line of blood flowed out of the corner of Hualayun's mouth. He was actually injured. Die! Hualayun was startled and infuriated. Yu Zifeng's attack was too bizarre and was actually able to ignore the power of his domain. With a howl, a giant spear image shot toward Yu Zifeng. A giant arrow smashed into the spear image. However, it exploded upon contact, and the spear image didn't even slow down. What? Emonyen was shocked. His full-strength attack was actually unable to shake Hualayun's attack. The difference was too great. Hualayun's anger had provoked him into using his full power. Everyone, watch out! Hualayun's manifestation has greatly reduced the effect of our manifestations. We don't even have 70% of our normal attack power. Meng Qi sent a hasty spiritual message to everyone. Hualayun's attack was about to strike Yu Zifeng, and considering that Yu Zifeng's defense was weak, there was no way that he could receive it. A black light sword shot out as Cloud tried to receive the attack. At the same time, willow branches appeared in front of Yu Zifeng, forming a giant shield. Boom! Cloud's attack crumbled, and Lu Ruyan's shield exploded. Yu Zifeng slashed his sword, and after going through Emonyen, Cloud, Lu Ruyan, and Yu Zifeng's attacks, Hualayun's attack finally exploded. However, Yu Zifeng also coughed up blood from the impact, which made the Dragonblood warriors' hearts sink. If others were injured, they could use Heavenly Tao energy to heal. But Yu Zifeng wasn't an Empyrean or a Celestial and couldn't heal. Being injured could be fatal for him. A group of trash. Come at me together, and I'll show you that the world's #1 legion is just a rabble of ants. Hualayun attacked once more. All the surrounding flame energy was absorbed in an instant by this attack. In the face of this terrifying attack, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, Gu Yang, and the others were all forced to take action, but they were all sent flying. Do you see? This is the power of a life-star expert world energy that controls the heavenly Daos. Do you know the difference between us now? Hualayun laughed mockingly. Bastard, if I also advanced to life-star, I'd kill you with a fart, cursed Amonyen as he flew back, but he also coughed up a mouthful of blood. Suddenly, all the dragon blood warriors began to shine. They summoned their dragon blood battle armor, and Guoran roared. Dragon blood cross-slash. However, this terrifying attack containing all their power was shattered by a single swing of Hualayun's spear. All the dragon blood warriors turned pale as paper. Some of them were even tottering on the verge of collapse. All their energy was actually unable to contend with Hualayun. Suddenly, one spear image after another shot out at Amonyen, Yuzifeng, and the others, once more sending them flying. Heavenly Dragon Flame Net. Hualayun raised a hand, and a net made of weaving flames captured Yijiqiu, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wan'er. As long as I capture Long Chen's women, I'm not worried about him showing himself. If he doesn't show himself, I don't mind sending him a few green hats. Ha ha ha. Hualayun had actually condensed the surrounding flame energy into a giant net. He pulled it toward him. The four of them struggled, but it was useless. Yijiqiu was surrounded by steam as she summoned her ice energy, but she was completely suppressed. Bastard! Release my sisters! Lu Ruyan and the Dragonblood warriors roared, but their attacks landed on a giant flame wall that forced them back. Suddenly, swordlight appeared, creating an opening in the barrier. The blood-stained Yuzifeng was flying back, his expression icy. Of them all, only Yuzifeng wasn't suppressed by Hualayun's manifestation, and he was the only one who could possibly threaten him. Regretfully, he was still too weak. I didn't expect Long Chen to have such a loyal dog. Alright, then I'll use your blood as a challenge to Long Chen. Hualayun pulled the net with one hand, while he threw his flame spear with his other hand. A trail of flame runes followed the flame spear as it flew through the air, igniting the space it passed. Let alone a physical body, even a star could be pierced by this spear. Zifeng! Everyone let our heart-rending roars. If this attack struck, Yuzifeng would definitely die. However, the rapidly flying flame spear suddenly stopped in midair, and the Nether Passage experts guarding this region jumped in shock. Their barrier had actually been broken by somebody. Flames exploded and space twisted. The flame spear was actually unable to advance any further because a large hand had caught its tip. A blood-soaked figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. That figure looked like a devil god that had crawled out of hell. Boss! The Dragonblood warriors cheered. Although the flames blocked their vision, they could sense that familiar aura. Long Chen! Those Nether Passage experts were dumbfounded. Long Chen had actually returned, charging through their barrier. Long Chen's hand tightly gripped the spear. It trembled intensely, erupting with flames, seeming to try to escape his grasp. However, it couldn't, although Long Chen's body looked like it was covered in blood. In truth, that blood wasn't flowing outside his body. Instead, it was flowing within. His blood was flowing through him like tiny dragons swimming. The power of his blood chi caused the void to rumble. What terrifying essence blood! Exclaimed one of the Nether Passage experts. He was from the Shen beasts, and Long Chen's current blood chi terrified him. He couldn't help but tremble and have an urge to flee for his life. As Long Chen's blood flowed within his body, his skin was constantly being torn apart and healing. It was a frightening sight, but it was like his blood chi would explode at any moment and destroy the world. The Azure Dragon Essence blood had rebuilt his body, but it still needed to fully merge with his blood. However, Long Chen couldn't wait any longer, and he had rushed over immediately. Because his body hadn't fully merged with the dragon blood before moving, it was tearing his body apart. Long Chen's arrival also shocked Hualayun. What was more shocking though was that his divine item was actually completely terrified and wanting him to save it. Suddenly, Long Chen's other hand reached out and grabbed the spear. Then, shockingly, he slammed the spear across his knee. Flames exploded, and a mournful wail resounded through heaven and earth. That terrifying blood-colored spear was actually forcibly broken by Long Chun. Hualayun suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. As the spear's item spirit was linked to his soul, the spear's destruction caused a backlash. Affected by this backlash, the flame net that he had condensed dissipated. Yijiqiu, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wan'er regained their freedom. Yijiqiu's sword flashed as she prepared an attack. "Let me do it." Long Chen's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Hualayun, raising a hand and launching a slap. Long Chun broke a powerful divine item with his bare hands as soon as he arrived, shocking everyone. Hualayun's head was still reeling from the backlash when Long Chen's hand slapped him across the face. Hualayun's head distorted, his bones breaking and his face caving in. The current Long Chun had yet to summon his divine ring, nor was he using the dragon blood battle armor. This was just the power of his physical body. The reason he didn't have them out was because he currently couldn't. His body hadn't fully recovered, and using his full power would cause his body to tear itself apart. The life energy in the primal chaos space had been used up, so there was no way that they could heal his injuries. Long Chen's physical body had reached a level that even he couldn't imagine. The azure dragon essence blood was flowing within his body, constantly strengthening it. But as his power grew, his flesh tore apart and healed, tore apart and healed. Even though his body hadn't fully recovered, he felt that with his current strength, he could tear apart heaven and earth with his bare hands. This single slap almost killed Hualayun. Emonian and the others were staring in shock at Long Chun. His power was ferocious. Heavenly diagram suppresses the cosmos. Hualayun's manifestation activated, instantly healing his injuries. He let out a shout and a giant divine diagram appeared, so high that it broke through the clouds yet still tore through the sea. It was the Brahma divine diagram. The two statues in Hualayun's manifestation began to chant. As a result, a ray of light shot out of the Brahma divine diagram at Long Chun. "Be suppressed!" roared Hualayun. His divine spear was broken, making his heart drip blood. That spear had accompanied him for a long time and had been nourished by his soul. He had spent a huge amount of time and effort on it. It was a divine item with great potential but had now been broken by Long Chun. As for the Brahma divine diagram, although it was even more terrifying, it would always belong to Pill Valley, not him. Evil Moon appeared in Long Chen's hands. Its two dragon marks lit up, and a dragon's cry resounded through the air. An evil murderous aura shot out. "Hee, I can finally fight on a higher level." Evil Moon laughed delightedly. Before, in the Yin-Yang world, when Evil Moon had loaned a portion of its energy to Long Chen, it had caused his scales to turn black. That was because Long Chen's own physical body was too weak, making their cooperation difficult. If Evil Moon had gone all out, Long Chun would have been unable to hold out before he could even attack his enemy. However, now that the Azure Dragon reverse scale had reforged Long Chen's body, Evil Moon could finally go all out. A black saber image tore into the sky. Behind that saber image was a giant black dragon. As that dragon roared, the saber image grew explosively. It absorbed the dragon image into it before it slashed toward the Brahma divine diagram. Boom! The black saber image sliced apart the Brahma divine diagram's attack. It also caused the surrounding space to crumble, and giant ripples spread in every direction. The clash between Evil Moon and the Brahma divine diagram made the barrier sealing this space explode. Those Nether Passage experts' expressions completely changed, and they hastily switched to blocking these shockwaves. Huge waves soared out of the sea. The water surged into the sky like it wished to devour the heavens. Impossible! How can he be so powerful? Hualayun hacked up blood. He had already advanced to the Lifestar realm and was in control of world energy. He could inject his world energy into the Brahma divine diagram, and it would allow him to unleash 10 times the power. However, he was still unable to defeat Long Chun. Long Chun was also sent flying by the impact. The flesh of his arms became a mangled mess. However, his expression didn't change. Even as he flew back, he once more slashed his saber. As long as Long Chen's physical body was strong enough, Evil Moon could unleash its full power in its sealed state. After absorbing the metal-devouring Evil Dragon's marrow and core, Evil Moon had plenty of energy. A giant saber image flew toward the retreating Hualayun. The Brahma divine diagram automatically went to protect its master, appearing in front of him. However, without Hualayun's own energy, it was sent flying. The shockwaves of that clash caused Hualayun to cough up more blood, and he tumbled back. Just at this moment, a third saber image came crashing toward him. It had only been a few seconds from the first attack, and even those Nether Passage experts' expressions changed. Just how was it possible to unleash such ferocious attacks without accumulating any energy? That made no sense. Quick! Save him! The Nether Passage experts charged out, but they were one step too late. Hualayun's body was spinning through the air as the saber image crashed toward him. A dozen attacks were unleashed at the same time, but it was too late. They couldn't block Long Chen's attack in time. Hualayun was struck head-on by the saber image and instantly exploded. However, as his physical body exploded, divine runes lit up within him. It was like a bright star within him was holding a fist-sized miniature version of him. It was his Yuan spirit which fled. Long Chen, how dare you destroy my physical body? I'll slaughter your whole family, your whole sect, roared Hualayun's Yuan spirit as he fled. The destruction of a physical body was not a minor inconvenience. It was half crippling his cultivation base. Even if he found a better physical body to possess, it wouldn't perfectly match his soul. Long Chen snorted and chased after Hualayun's Yuan spirit. However, Evil Moon said, "Don't chase him. Your physical body was just born and is like a baby. Any more and you'll harm your foundation. One more attack and then run." Only then did Long Chen notice that large pieces of his flesh crumbled like tofu. His current appearance was extremely frightening. That was the backlash of his attacks. Taking advantage of while the Nether Passage experts were still shocked, Long Chen raised Evil Moon. Split the heavens 7. A giant saber image tore through the sky, slashing down like a river of stars. It fell in Hualayun's direction. "That's the wrong direction," Evil Moon roared. It wanted Long Chen to create an opening to run, but he actually attacked Hualayun. "Yes, you're right. Don't worry and just support me." The saber image crashed down, causing the Nether Passage experts' expressions to change. If this attack struck Hualayun's Yuan spirit, he would definitely die. "Everyone, block it!" One of the experts wearing Pill Valley's robes shouted. If Hualayun died here, that would be a major impact on them. He was the future leader of the Flame Divine Palace. He couldn't be lost. All the Nether Passage experts attacked at the same time, their divine items unleashing rays of light. As a result, a giant net of interweaving attacks appeared in front of Hualayun. Boom! The saber image collided with their attacks, causing a powerful explosion. Astral winds devoured the sky. It was impossible to see anything. They ran. Hualayun had been saved. Thanks to their blockade, Hualayun's Yuan spirit had managed to flee into the Brahma divine diagram, and now there was no way that Long Chen could injure him. Just as they relaxed, they realized that Long Chen and the others had vanished. "Don't worry. They won't be able to escape. Hurry and report that they got away from us." That expert from Pill Valley snorted, clearly not very worried. "Long Chen, just wait. I won't let you have an easy death," roared Hualayun. He felt like if he didn't roar to vent, he would explode. "Long Chen, are you all right?" As clouds sped away, Chu Yao and Lu Ruyan both had a hand on Long Chen's back, unleashing their life energy to heal him. The current Long Chen didn't have that much flesh left on his body, and there were many places where his bones were sticking out. His frightening appearance distressed his women. Tang Wan'er in particular was crying. "Don't waste the effort." Long Chen took a deep breath. Chu Yao, Meng Qi, and the others instantly turned pale with fear. "Hey, don't look at me like that. I won't die. I just meant that your life energy isn't doing much, so it's fine," said Long Chen hastily. "Scoundrel, Are you trying to scare us to death? Raged Tang Wanner. She wanted to beat him, but he was covered in wounds, so where was she supposed to hit? Just now, his words had almost made their souls flee from their bodies. Long Chen, you're really a badass. You even managed to beat Hualayun. All right, I now no longer feel so jealous of your multiple wives and concubines, praised Emonian. The first part of his words was normal, but the latter was off. Just who were the wives and who were the concubines? Long Chen glared at him. Emonian was definitely trying to con him. Long Chen, what do we do now? Where do we run? Asked Meng Qi. It wouldn't matter where we go. Cloud, Chuyao, Ruyan, Guyang, Li Qi, Mingyuan, you've all been marked. No matter where we go, we won't be able to escape. Long Chen shook his head. Everyone's expressions changed, especially the people he listed. They didn't even know when someone had marked them. Don't worry. Once I recover a bit, I'll use the power of the dragon blood to erase that spiritual mark. Long Chen took a deep breath, a slightly relaxed expression finally appearing on his face. Bang! A beautiful white jade table was smashed to bits by the unfettered all-seer. That table had originally had a carving of the martial heaven continent on it. There had been a small light spot constantly moving over the martial heaven searing, but just then, that light spot had suddenly vanished. How could this happen? Roared the unfettered all-seer. He had long since lost the air of a transcendent immortal. His gaze was as sharp as a blade. There were dozens of Nether Passage experts gathered in this room, and they had been sitting around the table. At this moment, the room was deathly silent. Now isn't the time to get angry. Alert our people who are near the place where Long Chen vanished, and have everyone gather there, said Pill Valley's master, Yu Xiaoyun, who was equally gloomy. It's useless. They have the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. They'll just run. The unfettered all-seer took a deep breath and sighed. Still, sometimes luck is also a kind of power. If Long Chen's luck runs out, perhaps he'll end up running into our people, said Yu Xiaoyun. Although he also knew that this was just a way of comforting themselves and the chances were infinitely close to zero, at this point even the slightest chance was worth striving for. Yu Xiaoyun announced, everyone can scatter. Although Long Chen got away this time, there's no need to fear. His weakness is clear. Such a person can fall for countless schemes and isn't worth fearing. He only managed to get away thanks to his luck. But he's been expelled from the Martial Heaven Alliance, so we have countless ways to kill him. Don't be dejected. Pill Valley's promise to you all will be fulfilled, so don't worry. These people came from the various large powers. People like Dilong, Xia Wenyin, Zhong Ziang, Long and Juansong had left, leaving behind only a portion of their people to stay here to listen to Yu Xiaoyun's orders. Those experts now rose and said their goodbyes. Once they left, the ones from Pill Valley also retreated, leaving behind only Yu Xiaoyun and the unfettered all-seer. What ghost decided to screw us? The Martial Heaven Alliance's karmic luck has clearly reached its end, and Long Chen is clearly the evil star of the Martial Heaven Alliance's destruction. An easy win actually turned into such a state. The unfettered all-seer clenched his teeth, his expression ashen. Perhaps the Martial Heaven Alliance still has a little bit of power left. But that's fine too. Although we took some losses this time, in terms of the big picture, we're still the winner. The Martial Heaven Alliance's destruction is essentially set in stone. Although they still have some sects supporting them and there are signs of resurgence, it's just the final burst of light from the setting sun. It doesn't change that they're on their last legs. Right now, the most important thing is still eliminating Long Chen. He's too strange. Even your Heavenly Fate Island is unable to directly calculate anything about him. He makes me uneasy, said Yu Xiaoyun. He truly is strange. There are only a few existences outside the lines of fate. However, he isn't a good match for any of them, so it's impossible to tell just what kind of existence he is. Now even the 4 Fate Princes and the Vice Island Master have died to his hands. We've lost all our face and taken heavy losses, sighed the unfettered all-seer. Yu Xiaoyun looked at him with a faint smile. There's no need to play this game between us. I know that your 4 Fate Princes were just deputies. The true Fate Princes are still in seclusion in your immortal caves. I would even hazard a guess that their cultivation bases have already broken through to the lifestar realm. Being exposed, the unfettered all-seer awkwardly smiled. This was one of Heavenly Fate Island's greatest secrets. He hadn't expected Yu Xiaoyun to have such knowledge. Each of the true Fate Princes had a deputy Fate Prince. This was a strange custom of Heavenly Fate Island. If the true Fate Prince became the Island Master, then their deputy would also become the Island Master. In fact, the deputy would have even greater authority. That was because the true Fate Princes and true Island Master essentially never revealed themselves to the continent. They usually didn't step a foot out of Heavenly Fate Island for their whole lives. They were completely dedicated to researching the secrets of the heavens, and they were the true core of Heavenly Fate Island. As for the deputies, other than having to be greatly skilled in the cultivation techniques of Heavenly Fate Island, they also had to handle the business that Heavenly Fate Island had with the outside world. That was so that the true Fate Princes could focus on their cultivation, while the deputies were in charge of maintaining appearances. Of course, the death of the 4 deputy Fate Princes was still a loss of 4 peak geniuses. It was also a kind of humiliation for Heavenly Fate Island. Be at ease. Our actions are all at the directions of the gods. When their divine blessing descends, your Heavenly Fate Island will definitely enjoy a greater share. Promised Yu Xiaoyun. The unfettered all-seer cupped his fists to express his thanks. The two of them discussed their plans for a couple more hours before the unfettered all-seer left. Once he was gone, Yu Xiaoyun waved his hand, and an image appeared on one of the walls. In the image, there was a woman kneeling devoutly toward 2 statues. Those 2 were the gods that Pill Valley worshipped, Lord Brahma and Fallen Day Night. The 2 statues were standing there. Divine light flowed out of their heads and immersed the woman kneeling before them. Bathed in that holy light, she was noble and majestic. Yu Xiaoyun smiled as he looked at this woman. She was his daughter, Pill Valley's Pill Fairy, Yu Qingxian. The current Yu Qingxian was in a strange state. She was bathed in divine light, and divine flames were converging around her. This state was what Pill Valley called being immersed in the divine blessing. Yu Qingxian was currently receiving the god's blessing. Qingxian, what will matter in the future isn't talent. Only a god's inheritance can allow someone to rise above others in a great era. Don't disappoint your father. Yu Xiaoyun muttered to himself as he stared at the Pill Fairy. I heard that the girl from the Bloodkill Hall has also started receiving their divine blessing. But I believe you won't lose out to her. The future will belong to you divine sons and divine daughters. As for Long Chun, he's nothing more than an oddity. So what if we let him bounce around for a few more days? Yu Xiaoyun shook his head disdainfully when he spoke of Long Chun. Although Long Chun had escaped this time, so what? Yu Xiaoyun had already achieved his goal. The Martial Heaven Alliance was fractured, and Chu Jianying had submitted to Pill Valley's threat, expelling Long Chun. Their morale would plummet. Moreover, there were plenty of agents planted within as well. Their foundation would grow more and more unsteady. Chu Jianying's expulsion of Long Chun had caused great dissatisfaction with the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples. It was the final seed for the next division of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Although Long Chun hadn't died and they had lost their battle in the Inyang world, they were still the ultimate winners. Valley Master, Hualayun has returned. One of the elders of Pill Valley walked in. I know what happened. Bring him to the Flame Devil Palace, said Yu Xiaoyun. The Flame Devil Palace? Valley Master, you? The elder jumped in shock, thinking that he had misheard. Go. Having lost his physical body, Hualayun no longer has much value. Even if he does manage to advance to Nether Passage in the future, he'll be stuck at the second step. Such a figure isn't worth raising. Going to the Flame Devil Palace is his only choice. Either he dies, or he manages to condense the Flame Devil body, gaining a Flame Spirit body. If he fails, then living would be a waste of resources anyway, said Yu Xiaoyun. That elder was stunned. The Flame Devil Palace was a pool of terrifying flame devils, and it was used to punish traitors. If Pill Valley's experts betrayed them or broke harsh rules, they would be tossed into the Flame Devil Palace to be burned alive. Those people would die, and their souls would be absorbed by the flame devils, becoming their nourishment. The flame devils came from another world. They were violent, cruel, and bloodthirsty. They even slaughtered members of their own race. The stronger flame devils in the Flame Devil Palace were comparable to Nether Passage experts. To make Hualayun go there, his chances of survival were abysmal. Once he was inside, there were only two possibilities. He would either be devoured by one of the flame devils, or he would be the one devouring the flame devils. If he could succeed in doing so, he could possess a flame devil body, which would give him a flame spirit body. There had been people like Hualayun who had lost their physical bodies and wanted to condense the flame devil body. But in all of Pill Valley's history, those people had died. The elder had no choice but to leave upon receiving his orders. Yu Xiaoyun once more turned back to the Pill Fairy who was bathed in divine light. A look of great anticipation and expectations appeared on his face. Ha ha ha! We finally managed to escape. Fuck, those bastards are really insidious. We didn't even know when they marked us. Gu Yong and the others all felt much more relaxed after Long Chun unleashed the pressure of his dragon blood on them. They hadn't sensed anything before, but after this cleansing, they suddenly felt much more relaxed. Now, they became certain that someone had marked them. Long Chun was silent for a moment before saying, "It was mostly done while you were fighting those peak experts. Yen and I were protected by divine light or powerful flames when fighting, so whatever they used, it wasn't able to stick to us. This mark is very strange. It actually sunk into your blood without you noticing. Even Meng Qi was unable to sense it. These bastards, they really come at us with one scheme after another. There's no beating them. They've already made their move for the future right as the battle begins." Guoran cursed. Their enemies were too sinister with many backup plans. They had almost been killed because of this mark. After erasing the mark, Long Chun had clouds slow down a bit. After a couple more hours, since there was no more ambush, it meant that they were safe. Suddenly, Yen stood up and announced, "Since everyone is safe, it's time for us to part ways. I'm very grateful to all of you for getting me more enemies. I'll be able to conduct even more archaeology in the future. Being able to take revenge while researching archaeology is like hitting two birds with one stone. I'll probably be very busy. Brothers, if you ever need work, come find me. Especially Brother Guoran and Brother Xiachen. Listen to your big brother, you can achieve huge things. Don't let hesitation bury your talent. Good steel must be used on the edge of a blade. Following Long Chun is definitely a waste of your talents. Remember, if you want wealth and happiness, come dig up an ancient tomb with me, and just one will be enough to make you rich. A small tomb will be enough to support a family. A big tomb will be enough to create a nation." "Scram! Stop trying to steal my people," raged Long Chun. "All right, I won't waste time arguing with a petty little man who can't even handle a life and death brother asking for some helpers. Long Chun, just wait. I'm going to do something so huge that will make you die of envy. Ha ha ha." Yen summoned the earth-splitting divine shuttle and instantly vanished from sight. Yen left. Following that, Yijiqiu said, "Long Chun, it's also time for me to go." Long Chun was startled by that. Tang Wan'er cried out, "Big sister, you can't go. We still haven't had a chance to talk. I entered the Yin-Yang world under my master's orders to search for the heavenly ice crystal. It's one of the requirements for me to advance to Life Star flawlessly and awaken my manifestation. I found the heavenly ice crystal, so I have to return and prepare to break through. I don't want to go either, but you've also seen how powerful Hualayun was after advancing to Life Star. We are parting now so that we can stay together in the future. The Divine Ice Palace is a land of bitter cold, and it's not a good place for non-ice cultivators, or I'd invite you to come," said Yijiqiu helplessly. "Can you really stay with us in the future? The Divine Ice Palace has agreed to it?" asked Tang Wan'er. "Yes, my master has promised me that as long as I advance to Life Star and awaken the Ice Divine Sword, she won't restrict my freedom." Only then did Meng Qi and the others relax. Meng Qi cast a glance at Chu Yao and Tang Wan'er. The three of them backed up a bit to leave some space for Long Chun and Yijicho to talk alone. We've just reunited, only to part again. Long Chun bitterly smiled. From the moment Yijicho had arrived, all throughout the bloody battles they had gone through, they hadn't said more than 10 lines to each other, but now they had to part. He was very unwilling to leave things like this. It's fine, we won't be apart for long this time. We'll be reuniting soon, said Yijicho. Yijicho normally had an icy tone to all her words, but now there was a touch of warmth. She took the initiative to hold Long Chen's hand. However, the instant she held his hand, she released it. Frost had covered Long Chen's hand in an instant. Sorry, my ice spirit body hasn't fully awoken, and I still don't have complete control over my energy, apologized Yijicho. Long Chun flexed his fingers. He smiled. The ice spirit body really is amazing. I look forward to when you've fully awakened it. On one hand, he looked forward to seeing her so powerful, while another reason was that he hoped that she could control her energy. Otherwise, it would be a pain to be turned into an ice crystal every time they touched. Not sensing any petty thoughts from Long Chun, Yijicho spread her arms and gave him a short hug. However, Long Chun was covered in frost after that. Even his hair had turned white. That appearance was startling and funny. Long Chun bitterly smiled and circulated his flame energy, restoring his appearance. Hopefully, in the future, they wouldn't feel a conflict between their flame energy and ice energy. Goodbye. Take care. Yijicho said goodbye to everyone. She didn't want to go, but she had to. Emonyen and Yijicho were both gone, and Cloud flew through the air with the Dragonblood Legion on her back. They used this time to start recovering. They hadn't had time to heal ever since that battle in the Yin-Yang world. They hadn't just used up all their energy, but their nerves had also been on their highest alert all this time. Now that the crisis had passed, they felt lightheaded. Some of the healers fainted. The Dragonblood cross slash at the end had sucked away all of their energy as well to increase its power. Everyone began to recover, while Long Chun also sat down and closed his eyes. He didn't need to recover his spiritual yuan because his physical body was still in the midst of strengthening. When his body had first been restored by the dragon scale, that had just been the start. His flesh and his bones were still tender, and it wasn't a good time for him to be fighting. Having forced himself to fight, he had caused his body to crumble. Now his body had to heal by itself, and even the life energy of the primal chaos space wasn't able to help. He could only use the energy of the dragon blood to heal. Even once his body looked healed, he found that it was still being torn apart and healed over and over again. Long Chun asked Evil Moon what was going on, and Evil Moon said that the Azure Dragon's essence blood was just that powerful. His current physical body was unable to handle its power, so the dragon blood was constantly tempering his body. It would only stop once his physical body was strong enough to handle the Azure Dragon essence blood. Evil Moon, you're from the dragon race. With your years of wisdom and experience, you should know the origin of that dragon scale, right? Asked Long Chun. Fuck. Have you gotten into a habit of conning people? Even when you talk, you have to be a conner. If I can't answer, you'll be cursing me for being ignorant and living all my years for nothing. Raged Evil Moon. Definitely not. I am humbly asking for your wisdom. When did you get so sensitive? Are you a woman? Long Chun was speechless. He had just been trying to praise Evil Moon. Do you believe me when I say I'll tell Meng Qi and the others about what you just said? Threatened Evil Moon sinisterly. No way. When did you become so shameless? After being with a shameless person like you for so long, I feel like I'm growing further and further apart from the Grand Dragon race. If this continues, I won't have any integrity left. Evil Moon sighed deeply. It's fine though, you were chosen by a descendant of the true dragons. Being infected a bit by you is something I can handle. I'll tell you this, whether it's your cultivation base or your power level, you were completely unqualified to subdue that dragon scale. Rather than saying you subdued it, it would be more accurate to say that the Azure Dragon reverse scale chose you. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? And I thought you were smart. Could it be that you didn't notice it? In the end, the scale clearly let you off or you would have died 1,000 times over. As for why it would do that, I don't know, so don't ask me. If you really want an explanation, then here. It's all thanks to your dog's hit luck, said Evil Moon. In truth, it really was unable to explain how this had happened. Long Chen should have died. Long Chen suddenly recalled that at the final moment when he had subdued the dragon scale, he felt like he had vaguely heard some kind of sigh. At that time, he had thought that he was imagining things. But now that Evil Moon said this, he didn't think he had imagined it. However, this kind of thing wasn't something that could be figured out just by thinking about it, so he gave up. He calmly sensed the changes in his body. It was still growing stronger. His physical body was already 10 times stronger than before he had subdued the dragon scale, yet it was continuing to strengthen. According to Evil Moon, the Azure Dragon Essence blood wanted to strengthen his body to the point that it matched the strength of the blood. Thinking of that, Long Chen felt some fear. He had been too arrogant this time. Evil Moon had been right. If the Azure Dragon reverse scale hadn't chosen him, then no number of lives would have been enough. However, there were no absolute rights or wrongs either. If he hadn't done something like this, possessing the courage to challenge a supreme existence, the Azure Dragon reverse scale might not have chosen him. Long Chen shook his head. If he couldn't figure it out, then he shouldn't waste time thinking about it. To Evil Moon, he said, I wanted to kill Hualayun, but you didn't let me. Why not? If I had taken out the heaven-flipping seal, I would have had a 50% chance of killing him, and then I still would have been able to escape. That was one point that Long Chen had been confused on. It had been a great chance, but it had been wasted. He was a bit irritated. Leave it. When you attacked, you were unable to shake Hualayun's golden fate lines. There was no way you would have killed him. Do you not even know about your own luck? Snorted Evil Moon. Golden fate lines? Long Chen was startled. The Eastern Wasteland Bell had also said such a term in the immemorial path. The favorites of heaven and earth were looked after by the heavens and blessed with great luck. If two people were to fight with around the same power level, they had to be able to rattle the other side's golden fates lines if they wanted any chance to kill the other. If their golden fate lines didn't budge, then there was no chance of killing them. Some kind of unexpected external power would always appear. In that kind of situation, even if you had taken out the heaven-flipping seal, it would have been useless. The heaven-flipping seal has to manifest its true body to unleash its full power, but because its true body is so huge, those Nether Passage experts would have an easier time blocking it. Even if the Nether Passage experts didn't block it, the Brahma Divine Diagram would have. Your attack only posed the slightest danger to Hualayun. You wouldn't have killed him, and you would have wasted the heaven-flipping seal's energy. The more energy it can store up, the greater its intelligence will grow, and the greater control it will have. You shouldn't use it unless you have no choice, or each time it attacks, it will have to restart. Letting it first have more energy is better. The heaven-flipping seal is stronger than you imagine, warned Evil Moon. Long Chen's heart shook. It seemed he had underestimated the heaven-flipping seal. Its origins were not ordinary, or Evil Moon wouldn't give it such an appraisal. A day and night passed. Quite a few people had recovered to 50%, and they were much more relaxed. Boss, do we have no home to return to? Asked Guoran. Long Chen scolded. What nonsense are you talking about? As long as our brothers and sisters are present, wherever we go is home. Furthermore, being expelled this time is something that I discussed with the Shen Master. This is the only way for us to leave without misgivings. Fuck, now that we have this freedom, your boss is going to go big with you. Hearing this, Guoran and the others' eyes lit up. They understood Long Chen far too well. There would be some big movements happening soon. However, before this, I'll bring you to a good place. Long Chen smiled. He gave Cloud a location, and they began rushing away. Welcome to the skyscraping world. When the Dragonblood Legion arrived, the leader of the original devil race, Yu Shaoqian's mother, personally came to greet them. Senior is too courteous. We came here to seek refuge. For you to treat us so grandly will embarrass us. Long Chen smiled. In truth, even if Long Chen didn't return to the Shentian Dao sect, he still had several other places he could go. One was the Wine God Palace. If he sought protection with the Wine God Palace, no one would dare to touch him. However, that wasn't too suitable. The Wine God Palace was supposed to be separated from the rest of the world's struggles. Long Chun didn't want to draw the Wine God Palace into the whirlpool around him. He could also bring the Dragonblood Legion to the spirit world. However, the barrier between the spirit world and the martial heaven continent was very powerful. Each time they moved between them, it would take a huge amount of energy from the life god tree. So the skyscraping world was the best place for Long Chun to go right now, so he had brought the Dragonblood Legion here. However, he was a bit overwhelmed that Yu Shihan would personally welcome them. There is no need for such courtesy between us. However, if I didn't show my friendship to the number 1 Legion of the Martial Heaven Continent's first visit, I would appear too rude. Next time you come, I won't personally welcome you. Yu Shihan also smiled, appearing poised and graceful. Yu Shaoqian stood behind her. The two of them were like sisters. Aunt, why didn't I see the great prophet? Long Chin looked around. Everyone he had seen on his last trip here was present, except the old prophet who had touched his face. Yu Shaoqian's eyes reddened slightly. Last time, her grandmother had tried to see the future of the original devil race from Long Chen's body. She had used a divine ability, but the backlash had exhausted all her life energy. She had already passed. Oh, she is still in seclusion and cannot come out to see you, said Yu Shihan apologetically. I was just curious. After all, as the junior, I have to greet her. But since she's still in seclusion, I'll have to wait for another time to pay my respects, said Long Chun. However, he definitely sensed something off with Yu Shaoqian's expression. But this wasn't a matter for him to pursue. Everyone, please come in. Yu Shihan waved a hand, indicating that everyone could enter. Senior, we know you're very busy. There's no need for you to waste time on keeping us company. Yu Shaoqian can show us around, said Long Chun. That's good too. You youngsters probably have more words to say. I wouldn't want you to feel constrained by my presence. Shaoqian, you're the host. Make sure to carry out your duties properly. Yu Shihan seemed to see through Long Chen's intentions. Due to her presence, Long Chun and the others were more reserved. Leaving things to Yu Shaoqian, she left with the original devil race's elders. Isn't it said that all the original devil race's men look like bloodthirsty fiends and monsters? Why don't they seem like that at all? Only once Yu Shihan and the others were gone did Guoran curiously look at the other original devil race experts. Xia Chen immediately pushed him, meaning that he should shut up. That was too rude. Long Chun smiled slightly and said, We're all one family, so you don't need to have such misgivings. The original devil race that you know is a fabricated story. There are many things in this world where the truth has become false, and what is false has become truth. It's difficult to determine the difference. History is always written by the winners. They glorify themselves and make their enemies ugly. So true and false must be determined by ourselves, not just by listening to others. Even what you see might not be true, so use your heart to judge, and your head to analyze. That's too complicated. We'll just follow boss. Once boss becomes a god, we'll follow and become gods as well, becoming a divine army. If boss becomes a devil, we'll become devils too. As long as our lives are still as brilliant as now, who cares? Boss, what do you think of this bootlicking of mine? Chortled Guoran. Alright, stop messing around. We'll rest here for 3 days. Once those 3 days are up and everyone's back in peak condition, we'll be going to a trial by fire, said Long Chun. What trial by fire? Long Chun looked at everyone. Before advancing to the Life Star realm, I want to excavate everyone's potential once more. Our skyscraping world has a devil blood pool that can replicate a clone of you. It will possess the same power, the same techniques, and the same spiritual yuan as you. Hence, you'll be fighting against yourselves. Before this, you were facing enemies, and you had the confidence to win for sure. But this time, you'll be facing yourselves. The stronger you are, the stronger your clone will be. I'm giving you a mission. Each person must be able to defeat themselves 3 times before breaking through to Life Star realm. 3 times? That's impossible. Yu Shaoqian was startled. Beating oneself required great bravery. After all, you were fighting yourself. You might even lose yourself and be unable to tell who was who. could easily form a heart devil, and you might even feel an urge to kill yourself. The trial of the devil blood pool wasn't to beat yourself, but to make you face your heart devil. Those who could defeat themselves were too rare. Even Yu Shaoqian had challenged it several times at the beginning and only managed to have a draw. As for other experts, they were judged by how long they could last. That would determine how strong their mental realm was. Lasting an incense stick's worth of time was the passing grade. 2 incense sticks worth of time was excellent. 3 incense sticks worth of time made you a genius that would be heavily favored. Those who could last over 2 hours were the pillars of the original devil race. Yu Shaoqian had lasted 4 hours each time, making her the greatest genius of the original devil race in many years. However, even she was unable to defeat herself. For Long Chun to want the Dragon Blood warriors to defeat themselves, and 3 times at that, was essentially heaven-defying. "It's fine. I believe that they can do it," said Long Chen. Guo Ran's expression suddenly changed. He seemed to foresee a miserable plight for himself. 3 days later, after resting, everyone other than Long Chun had finally recovered to their peak state. After consecutive life and death battles, their mental realms had once more advanced. Their cultivation bases were at the peak of soul transformation, and many people already felt the barrier to the next realm weakening. They already possessed the ability to attack the Life-Star realm. During this time, Long Chun told Yu Shaoqian to have the Huayun sect send a message to the old man, telling him that he was safe and to be at ease. As for Chu Jianying's side, she had Li Tianxian, and Li Tianxian understood Long Chun. He wouldn't worry about him. However, the old man might very likely be searching for him. With his temper, he might just charge straight over to Pill Valley and cause a fuss. Although the old man had a fiery temper, he was very protective and willing to sacrifice his own life for his children. Long Chun was worried about something happening to him. He told the old man that they had found a good place to go into seclusion and that they were preparing to attack the Life-Star realm. Long Chun had no choice but to lie. If the old man knew that he had run to the original devil race and couldn't return home, he might explode in fury. After 3 days of rest, the Dragon Blood warriors were completely refreshed. They were now standing in front of a giant blood pool. Yu Shaoqian introduced it, explaining that it was a relic from ancient times. Back then, the original devil race had slaughtered their enemies of the devil races, refining their devil cores and devil blood to create this miraculous devil blood pool. "Who wants to go first?" asked Long Chen. "Boss Guyang definitely is unwilling to miss this chance. I won't fight against him over it, or that would be a provocation toward the Dragon Blood Legion's #1 captain," said Guo Ran immediately. Guo Ran's arm had shot up, and at first people thought that he was actually volunteering, making them wonder if the sun had risen from the west today. However, he ended up volunteering Gu Yang. Gu Yang's expression was dark. By calling him the #1 captain of the Dragon Blood Legion, he had no choice but to go. Gu Yang rubbed his bald head and took a deep breath. Clenching his teeth, he stepped forward, feeling great pressure. During these 3 days, he had learned more about the Devil Blood Pool and its abilities. He knew that for other people, this trial wasn't to be beaten. Normally, people's talent was judged by how long they lasted, as defeat was set in stone. Being the first one to challenge this trial, his results would affect the rest of the Dragon Blood Legion's morale. Not only that, but hundreds of experts from the original devil race were also watching. They were looking at them with worshipful expressions, wanting to see the power of the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 Legion. This was a rare opportunity for them. In this kind of scenario, being defeated would be embarrassing. So he couldn't be defeated. "Have you prepared yourself? If you're ready, then let's start." On the other hand, Long Chen was very relaxed. Gu Yang took out a spear. This was a battle spoil. It was a very good half-step divine item, and the weapon he was most used to. "Start." Gu Yang took a deep breath. Yu Shaoqian pointed a finger. A blood-colored light came from the devil blood pool, enveloping Gu Yang. He vanished, and a giant bubble appeared in the pool. An ancient martial stage was present within it. Gu Yang's figure appeared on the martial stage. Not far from him, blood bubbled and a figure gradually condensed. It was another person who looked identical to Guyang. They really are the same. Even the brightness of their heads is identical, exclaimed Guoran. Like this, when the battle started, they wouldn't be able to tell who was who. Tang Wanner chuckled. Even at such a tense time, Guoran was able to crack a joke. But it was true. The first things their eyes were attracted to were the two bright suns inside the bubble. Guyang's radiance was difficult to cover up. Just as they stared in amazement at how alike this duplicate was, the fake Guyang spear suddenly pierced forward, unleashing a shocking power. A pillar of blood chi soared into the sky. What? Upon seeing that blood chi, all the dragon blood warriors let out a startled cry. It even duplicated the dragon blood battle armor? The fake Guyang had summoned the dragon blood battle armor and was now covered in red dragon scales. With a roar, its spear pierced toward Guyang. Boom! Guyang's body shuddered, and he was sent flying by the fake Guyang's spear. Blood dripped out of his mouth. He was filled with shock. What's going on? Why is it that the fake is even stronger than the true body? Exclaimed Guoran. Guyang was actually at a disadvantage. No, the fake Guyang has an identical combat power to the real one. However, the duplicated one has one advantage, and that is that it doesn't need a warm-up. It is in its peak state from the start. As for the true body, it needs to slowly accumulate power and raise it. That's one of the monstrous aspects of the devil blood pool. It's a bit unfair, but there's nothing we can do about it, explained Yu Shaoqian. Upon hearing this explanation, their confidence received a blow. This was practically cheating. For most people to unleash 100% of their power, they would need to unleash 3 attacks. The first attack would have 50% of their power, the second would have 80%, and only the third would have 100%. That was the safest and most perfect way of warming up. Of course, it was possible to use 80% on your first attack and then 100 perfect on your second, but without a warm-up, you might injure your meridians. As for using 100% from the start, first, ignoring how difficult it would be to do such a thing, even if you did pull it off, you might tear apart your meridians. Before injuring your enemies, you would have injured yourself, causing your power to drop. Then, due to being injured, your attack would have less effect. However, this duplicate was able to ignore this rule and was instantly at full power. They were helpless over this cheating. No rules are perfect. The true body is at quite a disadvantage in this fight. So, Yu Shaoqian looked at Long Chen and didn't finish her sentence. Long Chen smiled. You don't need to give me face. You want to say that even one victory each would be a crazy dream. Yu Shaoqian covered up a smile. I wouldn't say it so directly, but yes. She had been very careful with her words to avoid giving a blow to Long Chen. She was trying to protect him. But Long Chen had long since been bruised by the blows of cruel reality. He was used to it. Actually, I encountered a similar trial in the immemorial path, but it was even crueler. This devil blood pool replicates 100% of the true body's power, while in that trial, it created an enemy with 120% of your power. Furthermore, you couldn't retreat or lose, or you would die, said Long Chen. 120% of the true body's power? Now everyone was shocked. They hadn't known that Long Chen had experienced something like that in the immemorial path. Then you won? Damn, that was a dumb question. If boss had lost, you wouldn't be standing here. Li Qi had just spoken when he realized he had misspoken. But boss, that's impossible. How is someone supposed to beat another version of yourself that is simply stronger? Asked Guoran. That made no sense. Then tell me, if there were 2 identical people, wouldn't their odds of victory be 50-50? Based on that logic, why is it that the original devil race's disciples practically never managed to defeat themselves in this trial? That's why you shouldn't try to use this logic, nor should you let this logic restrict your mind. I've previously told you that you have to keep your imagination in front of reality. Otherwise, you would have reached the end of your path and be unable to walk any further, said Long Chen. Yu Shaoqian's eyes lit up. She seemed to have understood something. Long Chen saw that and smiled. As expected of the sacred daughter, you understood with just a hint. Yu Shaoqian's comprehension skills were truly great. Long Chun had never seen anyone who surpassed her when it came to learning. Sacred Daughter was the title bestowed by the original devil race to their future leader. Both disciples and elders called her this. Rumbling rang out as Gu Yang's fight continued. It was growing increasingly intense. "Has Gu Yang taken the advantage?" said Tang Wan'er with surprise. "You're wrong. The one being beaten miserably is the real Gu Yang," said Long Chun. Tang Wan'er blushed. The two looked the same. "I thought the one shouting was Gu Yang." Yu Shaoqian said, "It's normal to not be able to see the difference. The blood devil pool replicates the true body's habits as well. Gu Yang has a habit of shouting when he has taken the advantage, wanting to snowball this advantage into a victory and increase his opponent's mental pressure. The silent one was actually the real one, but it was the fake that had taken the advantage and was shouting in an identical way to how Gu Yang shouted in combat." Everyone stopped their cheering awkwardly. They didn't know what kind of emotion the current Gu Yang was feeling, but they guessed that it wasn't a good one. The distant experts of the original devil race didn't find this odd. What they were shocked by was Gu Yang's power. The two Gu Yangs were fighting with immense power that made it hard for them to breathe. Their fight eventually passed the 2-hour mark. Too powerful and too fierce. The original devil race's disciples were gobsmacked. Gu Yang's fight was so intense that it was making their own blood heat up. 2 hours is already the level of the strongest heavenly geniuses, and it seems he can still continue. As expected, the name of the martial heaven continent's #1 legion isn't for nothing, praised one of them. He was one of the original devil race's core disciples, and he had managed to last a full 2 hours last time. However, past that mark, he had been instantly defeated. Back then, he had been on his last legs and had barely managed to bitterly hold on for this long. The original devil race only had 30-some people on his level. As for Gu Yang, his fight was still incredibly intense. Despite being suppressed, there were no signs he was about to give up. "Gu Yang's been injured." Song Mingyuan suddenly let out a cry. Gu Yang's shoulder had been pierced by his opponent's spear. Blood soaked his upper robes. The fake Gu Yang was growing fiercer with its attacks, and it seemed to possess limitless power, making them suspect that it truly had greater stores of energy. Its aura wasn't weakening at all. "Shaoqian, is there any mortal danger to the blood devil pool?" asked Chu Yao. "Don't worry. The devil blood pool is a treasure passed down from the ancient era. If someone is going to be killed, they'll be instantly transported out. There's no chance of dying, but being injured like this isn't part of the auto-protection system," said Yu Shaoqian. She was also amazed by how Gu Yang had lasted for so long. The more time passed, the further victory seemed to be, and the harder it would be to continue fighting. Only those who had experienced the devil blood pool understood just how difficult it was. Gu Yang was going all out, but no matter what, he was unable to reverse the tides. The fake Gu Yang had completely suppressed him. He slowly began accumulating injuries and looked to be in great danger. However, Gu Yang was still brave, and sometimes he only narrowly avoided being struck in his vitals. If he was about to be struck in a vital spot, the trial would determine that he was about to die and would transport him out. The current Gu Yang was covered in blood, but his gaze was still sharp. He wasn't panicking at all. His spear was still steady. What a terrifying will. Even in such a hopeless scenario, he hasn't given up. Anyone else would have long since crumbled. The original devil race's disciples were watching with shock. It had already been another hour. Gu Yang's will was amazing. They knew what it represented for Gu Yang to still be fighting. He was currently in a hopeless battle, and it was practically torture. Boom! Suddenly, Gu Yang's spear went flying, and the fake Gu Yang's spear pressed against the real Gu Yang's head. However, at that moment the devil blood pool transported Gu Yang out. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan immediately went to support him. He was pale and barely able to stand. He had used up all his energy but had still been defeated. "Guoran, I'll give you a chance to show off in the greatest way possible in all of history. Do you want it?" Long Chun suddenly sent a message to Guoran. "Sorry to disappoint everyone." Gu Yang barely had the energy to speak. "Is something wrong with this trial?" The real Guyang is exhausted, but the fake one isn't even breathing hard. The difference is too great, questioned Li Qi. Guyang hadn't made any mistakes from the start. Even while suppressed, he hadn't given up a single chance to counterattack. But he was still defeated. In truth, the fake Guyang also doesn't have much energy. It's just that the fake won't act weak, explained Yu Shaoqian. Guyang, you're very amazing to have lasted a full 4 hours. I'm ashamed of my own time. Yu Shaoqian's best record was only half an incense stick's time longer than Guyang, and that was after she had challenged the devil blood pool several times. She had plenty of experience, while this was Guyang's first time. Suddenly, at this time, Guoran walked over with his chest puffed out, patting Guyang on the shoulder. It's fine, don't be depressed. If you've been defeated, then leave it to me. You. Everyone looked at Guoran with confusion. They even suspected that this Guoran was a fake. When they encountered any trial, Guoran would dodge it if he could. The Guoran that always rolled on the ground begging for release could also say something so heroic? It seems you've all misunderstood me. Do you really think I'm a coward? You question my bravery in challenging the devil blood pool? Sighed Guoran. No, I don't question your bravery in challenging the devil blood pool. Li Qi shook his head. Hee, that's right. Guoran nodded. I question whether you have any bravery at all. What the? Guoran almost coughed up blood. He loudly said, I'll tell you the truth. Before, I was intentionally acting cowardly. Do you know why? Everyone shook their heads, looking at Guoran suspiciously. Why was it that today's Guoran was like a different person? Had he been possessed? Guoran heroically announced, All right, then I'll tell you. I acted cowardly for Boss. In my heart, Boss is like a god. As they say, the sky cannot have two suns, and the people cannot have two masters. I don't want my light to overshadow Boss. Guoran, as your brother, I'm not trying to criticize you, but don't you think you're bragging a bit too hard? Do you even believe yourself? Ask your own conscience if you believe it, said Song Mingyuan. Ah, well, when you put it that way, Guoran suddenly felt that things had taken a turn, and that if he continued, he would be exposed. He glanced at Long Chun, who was looking at him contemptuously. Spiritually, he scolded, Stop messing around. If you don't have that skill, don't force it. There's no need for this. Just start your display. Guoran cleared his throat and said, All right, I won't joke. Guyang's defeat is because he lacked one thing. Inside his heart, he didn't feel confident in definitely winning. Why? Because he was facing himself. If he was facing anyone else, anyone from the corrupt path, the ancient races, the Shen beasts, even if they were equally matched in power, I believe that Guyang would definitely win. Why? Because he has no other choice but to beat them. Defeat would signify death, and death would implicate the lives of even more of his brothers. A person can go all out against others, but going all out against themselves? That's the most monstrous aspect of the devil blood pool. Creates a duplicate of yourself which makes you feel like it's unfathomable. It sees through your techniques, making you feel helpless. The lack of confidence you feel is the main problem. The duplicate of the devil blood pool will immediately use a warmed-up 100% power attack. That's actually a psychological blow. Using an attack that surpasses common sense will leave a shadow on your heart. A voice will repeat in the depths of your heart that you cannot possibly defeat your opponent. The moment that shadow appears, you'll already be defeated. Guyang only had any chance of defeating himself in the first hour. After that, as he grew weary, the shadow on his heart only expanded, and the effort of continuing to fight against that shadow exhausted more energy. That's why the fake Guyang seemed to still possess energy. But the real Guyang couldn't last any longer. After hearing all this, everyone's expressions changed. Guoran was previously only capable of saying some big nonsensical words, but now his words were all reasonable. In truth, you've been fooled by my outer appearance. I'm actually a very low-key person, but today, I'll show you my true self. Brothers, just prepare yourselves. I don't want my display to cause the whole world to know my great name. I want to maintain my original heart. Guoran stepped forward bravely toward the devil blood pool. I'll show you just how you should defeat yourself and your heart devil. Keep a close watch on my movements. I'll trouble Sister Xiaoqian to activate the trial for me. Everyone looked at each other, feeling like today's Guoran was very odd. Yu Xiaoqian looked at Long Chun and he helplessly nodded. Guoran had ended up adding some of his own poser spice into the plan that they had discussed, resulting in people not fully believing him. Guoran's figure vanished, reappearing in a giant bubble within the devil blood pool. He was standing atop an ancient martial stage just like Gu Yang had. Guoran summoned his armor. Only his face was revealed. He had just appeared when another figure slowly condensed from blood mist not far from him. That figure was identical to Guoran, with even that wretched smile being the same. Long Chun couldn't help shaking his head. Even if you gave a monkey imperial robes, it wouldn't look like a prince. This kind of poser style didn't suit Guoran. He looked out of place, making Long Chun even regret appointing Guoran as the main character of this display. "Everyone watch closely," shouted Guoran. His face also became covered in his golden armor. Suddenly, the opposing Guoran slashed its sabers. It was incredibly quick, like a golden bolt of lightning. The sudden burst of power came without any warning, none whatsoever, and its power instantly reached the pinnacle. Boom! Guoran raised his own sabers to block, only to be sent flying. He tumbled back, looking even worse off than Gu Yang. Guoran stabbed his sabers into the martial stage, creating 2 large cuts. He barely stabilized himself before the fake Guoran charged over. A pair of golden wings appeared on its back, and its sabers rapidly spun as it charged over. How powerful! Although the duplicate Guoran was using the same techniques as Guoran, its battle style was different. It was fiercer. Guoran was forced back, but his power began to rise bit by bit. Suddenly, with a cry, the fake Guoran came to a stop and was then forced back by Guoran. The two of them both retreated at the same time. After blocking the first wave of attacks, raise your power to your peak. Whether the other side is your enemy or yourself, crush them. Guoran went on the offense, facing his opponent's attacks with his own. 2 golden monstrosities were clashing crazily. Their colliding weapons and mechanisms were like thunder, while their bodies were like golden lightning. Do you still remember what Boss said? If you want to get stronger, you need to find a reason to get stronger. Why do you want to be strong? Have you already forgotten? It's to protect those we cherish in our hearts. No matter who our opponent is, even if it's a god or devil, they can't be allowed to take away the people we love. Our lives aren't our own. If they want to kill us, then they want to harm our beloved. Even if we're facing ourselves, we have to erupt with our fury. Roar and proclaim that we are undefeatable. Guoran shouted as he fought. His voice contained a metallic sound to it. The current Guoran seemed to have been possessed by Long Chun, having a kind of domineering air to look down on the 9 heavens. He crazily attacked his opponent, but the 2 of them were equally matched. Neither side was able to suppress the other. Erase the fear and apprehensions inside your heart. Don't be suppressed by your opponent. This is just the first step. In this kind of state, you'll simply be fighting over who runs out of energy first. You'll only have a 50% chance of winning. However, what we want isn't 50% but a 100% chance of winning. At this time, we have to fight with our true power. We are the great Dragonblood warriors, the #1 legion of the martial heaven continent. We have our own pride. Each day, we have to do everything we can to get stronger. We're stronger than we were yesterday, we're stronger than we were an hour ago, we're stronger than we were a minute ago. We have to be stronger than we were a blink ago. As for our opponent, it's just a replicated version that won't get stronger. We get stronger with each breath, so tell me, what reason do you have to not win? Kill! Guoran's sabers suddenly blazed with light. He seemed to go crazy, unleashing a tempest of attacks. His aura gradually rose even higher, and his armor grew brighter. He seemed to be undergoing some kind of transformation, and he was actually constantly forcing his opponent back. So that's how. Li Qi clenched his fist, feeling his blood heating up. He wanted to go try this trial right now. Continuous rumbling rang out as Goran went all out. His opponent was constantly knocked back. The distant experts of the original devil race were staring with shock, their own blood heating up. In the past, they had felt too much reverence for the devil blood pool, and the idea that the only thing they could do was last longer against it had become a deep-rooted belief. They had stopped believing that they could defeat themselves. Now that Goran was showing them the way, their minds became clear. They saw an unprecedented world for themselves. No matter who it is, those who block me will die. Goran roared and slammed his sabers together. His opponent, who was still reeling from the previous blow, had its neck severed by Goran's dual sabers. Boom! Goran's opponent's head was severed. However, at that moment the martial stage vanished and Goran was transported out. Goran's armor disappeared, revealing himself. The current Goran was covered in sweat, but he was filled with excitement. Ha ha ha, brothers! I can only help you out this much. As for whether or not you understood, it's all up to you. Goran's legs failed him and he almost collapsed. Although his fight had lasted less than an hour, he was exhausted. He needed Li Qi to go support him. After placing Goran in a chair, Li Qi praised him. Goran, I'm fully convinced. So you were actually hiding your true self so well. Don't worry about it. Brothers, go out and fight. No matter who is in your way, crush them. Goran forced himself to shout despite his lack of energy. Following that, the Dragonblood warriors charged into the Devil Blood Pool one by one. Yu Shaoqian activated the automatic trial mechanism, so now anyone that entered the Devil Blood Pool would automatically be drawn into their own trial. One martial stage appeared after another, and furious roars rang out as the Dragonblood warriors went all out. Their battle intent was fully ignited by Goran. Looking from the Dragonblood warriors fighting to the original Devil Race's experts that couldn't help but look at him worshipfully, Goran felt like all his pores had been fully opened. He felt like he might ascend at any moment. This feeling was indescribable. What happened? Why was it so difficult? Asked Longchen. The two of them were speaking spiritually to prevent others from hearing. Boss, it was my mistake. I forgot to remove some of the mechanisms. I almost ended up screwing myself, said Goran. The plan had been for Goran to remove some of the hidden parts of his armor, weakening it. When the Devil Blood Pool duplicated him, his armor would still be missing those parts. Since Goran's armor was a physical object, it couldn't duplicate what had been lost. After the duplication, Goran could simply add the portions that hadn't been duplicated. The Devil Blood Pool was for normal experts, but Goran was too special and could easily trick it to pass. It was just that Goran had been so focused on showing off that rather than taking off the 7 parts he had planned, he had gotten caught up in his words that he had forgotten the last 3 parts. As a result, the duplicated Goran was only a bit weaker than his true self. Fortunately, he had still managed to beat it. Hearing this, Long Chun sighed. I find that showing off is the only motivation that can make you go all out. Normally, you would have definitely lost. I think the same way, so showing off is the thing that can stimulate my potential. I really admire myself. Goran nodded. Long Chin glanced at him without saying anything. After succeeding in showing off, he would become even more of a show-off in the future. However, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Each person pursued different things. What worked for others might not work for someone else. However, boss, will this really work? Those duplicates are too powerful. Facing myself gave me a weird feeling that made fighting very difficult, said Goran worriedly. That's because your will isn't strong enough. Don't think others are like you. Do you think others live off of showing off like you? Said Longchen disdainfully. Boom! Yu Zifeng was the first to return. He had already succeeded in defeating his opponent. Those disciples of the original devil race were shocked. It had only been a minute, but Yu Zifeng had already won. After being transported out, Yu Zifeng didn't hesitate. He entered the Devil Blood Pool again, once more appearing outside in under a minute. Now the original Devil Race's experts' eyes almost popped out of their heads. Yu Zifeng was practically a monster. Just as they were shocked, Yu Zifeng entered the devil blood pool and returned once again. I've completed your mission. Yu Zifeng smiled. Long Chen nodded. The will of a sword cultivator was truly terrifying. Their will was concentrated in their sword, and they had to possess an undefeatable will to control an undefeatable sword. Even without Guoran's display, Yu Zifeng would have passed the devil blood pool. Sword cultivators were madmen, or they wouldn't be able to devote their hearts purely to the sword. The original devil race's disciples had never seen anything like this. Furthermore, this was just one of the Dragonblood Legion's captains. Now they understood why the Dragonblood Legion was called the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 Legion. They were monstrous. At this time, Li Qi also returned. However, he was covered in blood and was panting. Although he won, he had paid a price. Ha ha ha! Satisfying. Really? Satisfying. Li Qi laughed. Although he was short of breath, he was still smiling. Yu Shaoqian also returned. At some point, she had also entered. Her shoulder was bleeding, but she was smiling delightedly. Long Chen, I finally beat it! Exclaimed Yu Shaoqian, holding Long Chen's hand. I knew you would be able to figure it out with just some pointers. But next time, be careful. If you get injured here, I'll get hurt here. Long Chen pointed to Yu Shaoqian's shoulder and then his own heart. Although he knew being injured in battle was unavoidable, he still felt some pain. Yes. I'll pay more attention in the future. Yu Shaoqian blushed slightly, looking down. But she was happy inside. Another person returned. Long Chen jumped in shock. Little miss, just what are you up to? It was Tang Wan'er. She was now covered in blood, and even her face was covered in cuts. Although they rapidly healed, the blood remained. Hee, I won. Tang Wan'er made a victorious gesture and an adorable face. Long Chen suddenly hugged Tang Wan'er, startling her. She knew Long Chen was distressed by her current appearance. You don't need to pass the trial. Your wind blades are like a whirlwind of thousands of blades. It's too bloody, said Long Chen. No, I am also a member of the Dragonblood Legion. I'm not going to become deadweight. Don't worry, I'll look after myself. Getting a bit injured will just toughen me up. Tang Wan'er held Long Chen's face in her hands. After saying that, Tang Wan'er and Yu Shaoqian circulated their heavenly Tao energy to recover and prepare for the next challenge. After all, not everyone was as monstrous as Yu Zifeng and capable of maintaining their peak condition the entire time. Yu Zifeng was capable of mercilessly slaying even himself. That was one reason why most sword cultivators were lonely, aloof figures. Most of the Dragonblood warriors managed to win, but some failed. Facing oneself was too difficult. But after resting, they tried again. To maintain the maximum effect each time, they always recovered to their peak condition before attempting it. Boss, how about you try it as well to raise their morale? Asked Guoran. Long Chen shook his head. This kind of trial is meaningless to me now. Long Chen had stealthily tested the devil blood pool before, only to find that Evil Moon, his dragon blood battle armor, and even his paragon arts were unable to be duplicated. Not even his world extermination flame lotus could be duplicated. The Dragonblood warrior's dragon blood battle armor could be duplicated, but not his. It was very strange. In this kind of state, he could only fight with his bare hands to challenge himself, which was useless. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Essence blood was constantly strengthening his physical body. So this trial couldn't help him at all. As the Dragonblood warriors challenged the Devil Blood Pool, within a distant high tower, Yu Shihan and some core elders of the original Devil race were watching. This Long Chen has toppled our understanding of the Devil Blood Pool as soon as he arrived. No wonder he is able to turn everything on its head in the Martial Heaven continent. He truly is a monstrous existence, said one of the elders. The original Devil race has a deep relationship with the 9-star heirs. Long Chen's fate is tied to our original Devil races, and this is the start of our resurgence. Long Chen's arrival will cause huge changes. Perhaps one day, we will be able to break the Martial Heaven continent's bindings and merge with the original Devil races of other starfields, said Yu Shihan. Race leader Long Chen brought a lot of heavenly Tao fruits this time, and many of them are on the Empyrean level. This matter is too big for us to handle, so we need your guidance, said the elder. In the Yin-Yang world, rivers of blood had flowed. Many great geniuses had died during the battle. Long Chun had mountains of the heavenly Tao fruits, which were more than enough to turn every member of the Dragon Blood Legion into an Empyrean. He had then distributed a portion to the heaven-splitting battle sect, sending them through the Huayun sect, while another portion was left with Li Tianxian. The rest were for the original devil race. Not only were there over 2,000 on the level of Empyreans, but there were also over 1 million of the level of rank 9 Celestials. That was enough to raise a terrifying army that could fight on the martial heaven continent. There's no rush. Go back and choose a portion of our elite disciples to form a supreme army. Once they mature, we'll be able to fight the martial heaven continent. Yu Shihan looked into the distance with a smile. She seemed to be able to see the day that the original devil race could return to the martial heaven continent. As time passed, more and more of the Dragon Blood warriors passed the tests. They managed to defeat themselves 3 times in a row. However, some of them failed many times. They might win the first time and then lose the second, and so they had to start over. Even if they won twice but lost the third, they would have to restart. This was a condition that Long Chun had tacked on. It could be considered a challenge with a heaven-defying level of difficulty. Each time they beat themselves, their power and will would rise. However, the next time they tried the trial, their opponent would have grown equally strong. To defeat themselves 3 times in a row, they had to constantly grow stronger. That was incredibly difficult. Long Chun was trying to draw out all their potential. In theory, this method was impossible, but Long Chun had never really believed in theory. His principle was to raise his saber and fight to the death. There were no reasons or excuses needed. All he had to do was win. After 3 days, half of the Dragon Blood warriors had managed to pass the 3 consecutive win condition. Some of them even challenged themselves over and over again to break through their limits. The Dragon Blood Legion's power shook the original Devil Race's disciples to the core. The difference between them was immense. Some of them also started challenging the Devil Blood Pool. This time, they weren't fighting for time but to win. Very quickly, some of them also managed to defeat themselves, stimulating the rest of them. Countless disciples began to attempt the trial. Time passed by, bit by bit. Most of the Dragon Blood warriors managed to pass, but hundreds of them were now in a deadlock. They were constantly growing stronger, but so were their opponents. They couldn't win. Long Chun gathered those Dragon Blood warriors. They were ashamed. They had all managed to beat themselves twice in a row but lost on the third. They were angry enough to curse. Having been specifically gathered by Long Chun, they were ashamed of themselves as well as nervous, feeling like they had disappointed their boss. You are all excellent. The reason you weren't able to pass isn't because you aren't strong enough, but simply because you were unlucky. It's actually not a bad thing, said Long Chun. Boss, you don't need to comfort us, said one of the Dragon Blood warriors. I'm not skilled in comforting others, only randomly hacking them. Long Chun smiled. That drew out a smile from them. Long Chun looked over at them. Having bad luck isn't a bad thing. This is a truth that I have profoundly experienced. My luck has always been terrible, and I would often complain about it. However, complaining had no use. It was only later that I realized that whether or not something is good depends on how you look at it. A lucky person has a smooth path, but after succeeding 999 times, all it takes is one failure for them to stumble and fall miserably. I'm sure with your experience, you know about the so-called high and noble heavenly geniuses who look down on others. Their good luck makes them succeed easier than others, which fosters a condescending attitude of looking down on others. Before encountering you, they always succeed, but after encountering you, they were killed with a single stroke of a blade, their good luck coming to an end. On the other hand, someone with bad luck will fall 999 times, but it only takes one success for them to soar. Their failures temper their will and mental realm, and once they step into a higher realm, their failures will become a solid foundation. One is a solid foundation, while the other is rootless duckweed. That's why you shouldn't be resentful of failure. Look at it from another point of view. Calm yourself down and find the source. Guoran suddenly raised his hand. Boss, I understand. You're saying that failure is the mother of success. Even if I fail 999 times, all I have to do is try again. Long Chen nodded. Yes, if you try again, you can get an even 1,000. Guoran almost coughed up blood. Boss, what are you saying? What I just said doesn't apply to you. A fellow like you with no willpower or integrity doesn't follow this logic. If you want to say that failure is the mother of success, then you are definitely infertile, said Long Chen. Boss, my heart. Without 100,000 spirit crystals. No, without 1,000,000 spirit crystals, I'll never recover. Guoran lay like a ball on the ground without the slightest air of an expert. Guoran was the clown of the Dragonblood Legion. He liked to mess around, but he was able to raise everyone's mood. Fine, you win, I'll give you the money when we get back. Let's talk for real, said Long Chen. Speaking to everyone, he said, being angry over this is meaningless and won't solve your problems. At this time, you have to learn some new techniques. However, what I'm about to teach you, you cannot show to the heaven-splitting battle sex people, or they'll definitely beat you. For the heaven-splitting battle sect, power was everything. If you couldn't beat your opponent, it just meant that you weren't strong enough. They wouldn't try to use any trick because that was a waste of time, a distraction from getting stronger. First, he had to make sure that what he was about to say wouldn't reach the old man's ears. Only once everyone nodded did Long Chen continue. The Devil Blood Pool's rules are dead, while people are alive. You know your own weaknesses, and those weaknesses are duplicated. What if in the middle of battle you were to break your limit by creating a new technique that is unique to you? You can come up with a completely deviant technique adapted to your weaknesses. In the end, the goal of battle is to eliminate your opponents. It doesn't matter if you use a crotch kick, an eye jab, a nose hook, as long as it works, it's fine. To tell the truth, back in the Eastern Wastelands Phoenix Cry Empire, I had an exceptionally good crotch kick that knocked out quite a few balls. Tang Wan'er and the others turned away, their faces red. Long Chen's final words were a bit too crude. Chu Yao and Meng Qi both covered their smiles. Back in the Phoenix Cry Empire, Long Chen truly had often used this move. In fact, he had once used just this one move to take victory on the martial stage. Boss, we understood. We weren't flexible enough, said one of the Dragonblood warriors. Exactly. Rules are dead, but people are alive. Do you remember the Fate Princes that flustered Chong Hao and Bao Buping? 2 of you were able to kill 2 Fate Princes easily. Why is that? Because people need to know how to break conventions, or others will use their experience to play you to death as you follow the same patterns over and over again. We don't play by those rules. If someone wants to play chess with you, just break the chessboard, said Long Chen. Meng Qi and the others were speechless. When Long Chen was evil, was there anyone more evil than him? The things he could come up with were chilling. Boss, we understand. Then go. Those Dragonblood warriors once more charged into the Devil Blood Pool. This time, their battle style had clearly changed. People quickly ran back, exclaiming their victories. Don't get happy too soon. You'll only be able to use each move once because it will be duplicated the next time. You need to constantly think of new techniques on the fly. Furthermore, make sure to win, because as time passes, your opponent will only grow more evil as you do, said Long Chen. Those Dragonblood warriors felt their excitement vanish without a trace. They focused and ran back to the trial. However, with just this one warning, they once more passed. They were constantly thinking of how to create a new method to target their own weaknesses. The Dragonblood warriors all started challenging the Devil Blood Pool again, wanting to use this chance to think of new techniques. There was no risk to their lives, and they could gain more experience. They were like divine weapons being constantly sharpened by the Devil Blood Pool. With each day, they made progress. They could clearly feel themselves getting stronger. Influenced by the Dragonblood warriors, the disciples of the original Devil race also joined in. Another week passed, and the Dragonblood warriors had all passed. After that, Long Chen took out a batch of heavenly Dao fruits, making the warriors who weren't yet Empyreans refine them. Due to their immense experience with refining the heavenly Dao fruits, it only took them a single day to refine them. Now the Dragonblood Legion was composed of Empyreans. Over 12,000 Empyreans were standing together. Their powerful auras caused heaven and earth to tremble. Long Chun felt a grand feeling in his heart. He had raised this unrivaled army. Brothers, let's go. We're undergoing tribulation. Long Chun suddenly waved his hand, bringing the Dragonblood Legion out of the skyscraping world. Above the martial heaven searing, everyone from the Dragonblood Legion was gathered. They were a bit nervous as well as excited. They all felt the barrier in front of them weakening. They were just one step away from advancing to the Lifestar realm. As long as they underwent the lightning tribulation, they would become Lifestar experts. However, they knew that with Long Chun, their lightning tribulation wouldn't be the same as other people's. They would challenge the strongest kind of heavenly tribulation. This would be a battle. Other than the Dragonblood warriors, Yu Shihan had also come. Looking over them, she said, "The Lifestar realm condenses the energy of your Yuan spirit and Dantian together. By borrowing the energy of heavenly tribulation, you condense your Dantian's formless chi into a solid entity. The two kinds of energy will form an astral space inside you. From then, you won't need to rely on spatial rings. This astral space is your Lifestar bead. However, you will condense two Lifestar beads. One will represent the past and one will represent the future. Essentially, all experts will choose to extract the Lifestar bead of their past, because what they want is a new start for their future. That way, their mental realm will become like a sheet of blank paper, and they can rewrite what they want while abandoning what they don't, making their future cultivation even easier. However, Long Chun has told me that all your past experiences are very important to you, so you won't abandon the Lifestar bead of the past. Then what you need to do is merge the two Lifestar beads together. Doing such a thing requires much more tribulation lightning and will require a powerful will from each of you. This is something very dangerous. One reason is because heavenly tribulation can't be controlled. If it's not strong enough, you will fail to merge your two Lifestar beads. The other reason is that doing such a thing has high requirements when it comes to your willpower, Yuan spirit, and spiritual strength. You have to prepare yourselves." Long Chun and the others had never experienced the Lifestar realm, but Yu Xian was explaining some things that they needed to take note of. "Don't worry. We actually have plentiful experience when it comes to heavenly tribulation," said Long Chun. Even as the leader of the original devil race, Yu Shihan had never heard of over 10,000 people undergoing tribulation together. Long Chun always did things that others would never do. She was a bit worried, but he seemed confident. Yu Shihan nodded and led away a dozen experts of the original devil race. They made sure to distance themselves but be close enough to watch. Although Long Chun was confident, she still wasn't at ease. Although Long Chun was a 9-star heir, such a crazy action could not be controlled. If something unexpected happened, the results would be unimaginable. Despite that, Yu Shihan respected Long Chen's choice. She led her people further away and activated a grand formation to conceal them. That way, they wouldn't be sensed by the heavenly Daos. If there was something wrong, they might be able to help. "Should we open the spatial watching channel?" asked one of the experts she had brought. Yu Shihan nodded. "That's a good idea. Let the disciples see how the Dragonblood Legion undergoes tribulation. Even if things go wrong, they might be able to learn something." That expert formed hand seals, and a giant channel appeared behind him. It was like an eye watching the Dragonblood Legion in the distance. Within the ancestral lands of the original devil race, a giant projection appeared in the sky. The figures within that projection were Long Chun and the others. The disciples of the original devil race looked up to watch. Even the disciples still attempting the devil blood pool stopped to watch. What are they doing? Could it be? Those disciples stared, dumbfounded. They thought of something that they didn't dare to imagine. "Begin. Let's not waste any time," said Long Chun. Boom! The Dragonblood Legion's people unleashed their auras. Pillars of light soared into the sky as they all began attacking the Lifestar realm at the same time. As they broke through the barrier, the sky darkened and black clouds covered the sky. The world became silent. My eyes are being opened to the world. I've never seen such a terrifying lightning tribulation. The scope is even greater than when I advanced into Nether Passage, said one of the original Devil Race's experts. After passing through the mental journey part of advancing to the Nether Passage realm, success meant returning and undergoing heavenly tribulation. But even Nether Passage experts were stunned by this tribulation. Although the strength of the tribulation wasn't as great, the scale was even greater. Kill! However, the next scene made those Nether Passage experts dumbstruck. All the Dragonblood warriors suddenly began to attack the tribulation clouds that were gathering. "Are they crazy?" cried one of the Nether Passage experts. They were actually attacking heavenly tribulation? Wasn't that becoming enemies with the heavenly Daos? Did they even care about their lives? Over 10,000 attacks struck the tribulation clouds, creating a large hole in the middle. The tribulation clouds surged, seemingly furious. They regenerated, growing denser. However, the Dragonblood warriors' attacks didn't stop. One of the original Devil Race's experts sighed but swallowed his last two words. However, everyone knew that he was about to say that they were courting death. This truly was suicide. Even Yu Shihan frowned. Although she knew that the original Devil Race had a connection to the 9-star heirs, she wasn't qualified to know those secrets, so she couldn't comprehend what Long Chun was currently doing. As the Dragonblood warriors attacked, the clouds grew thicker, and it was like a magical beast had been provoked. Heavenly might crashed down from the sky. Suddenly, blinding lightning flashed amongst the originally dark clouds. It was like a sea of lightning falling from the sky, and it enveloped the Dragonblood Legion. Within that sea of lightning, the roaring of lightning beasts could be heard. Lightning beasts have already appeared in the first wave? The first wave of the tribulation was the weakest and was usually to leave room for people to get used to the lightning. The strength of the rest of the tribulation could be seen by the first wave. Normally, lightning beasts would only appear at the end. Kill! The Dragonblood warriors raised their divine items, slaughtering these lightning beasts. The lightning beasts transformed into lightning runes that were absorbed by the Dragonblood warriors. As they absorbed the lightning, their dantians began to change. They shrank, and the energy of their Yuan spirit and spiritual strength was absorbed by their dantians, gradually condensing into a small dot. That small dot was the embryonic life star bead. As it grew larger, it would become the true life star bead, and then it would fracture into two. For most cultivators, all they needed to do was take out the life star bead of their past so that they could continue with their life star bead of the future. That would create its own astral space, and they would have advanced to the life star realm. However, Long Chun wanted everyone to merge their life star beads that would fracture them back into one, combining their past and future. That required a huge amount of tribulation lightning energy, as well as Yuan spirit energy and spiritual strength. Now they didn't need to worry about the amount of lightning tribulation energy. They crazily absorbed it. Long Chun was also immersed in the lightning. Lei Long was floating behind him, but it only devoured any fellows that attacked it. Lightning on this level was no longer able to interest it. Long Chun didn't attack the tribulation clouds. He was waiting for everyone to absorb enough energy. He looked at Yu Shaoqian in the crowd and saw that there were more lightning beasts attacking her. That meant that she really was rejected by the world, and so she was receiving special treatment. More and more lightning beasts appeared, and they grew larger and more powerful. However, the Dragonblood warriors were still able to easily handle them. Cloud had taken human form and was also fighting alongside everyone else. She was using a sword and was able to kill the lightning beasts easily, but her movements were stiff. She clearly wasn't too used to her human form. However, if she wanted a greater comprehension of the heavenly Daos, she had to get used to it. It would be greatly beneficial. That was because humans were the most spiritual of life forms. Although the Shen beasts possessed terrifying bodies, they weren't as close to the heavenly Daos, and those closest to the heavenly Daos had the highest chances of ascension. So the experts of the Shen beasts all had to get used to human forms. As for the human race, they also had flaws and were extremely envious of the Shen beasts' powerful bodies, thinking them to be the strongest. However, if the Shen beasts really were the strongest, why would they choose to take human form? So foolish people really had different brains than normal people. They were simply incapable of communicating. 2 hours later, the lightning beasts were so powerful that they were comparable to 12th rank magical beasts. The Dragonblood Legion was starting to find it taxing. However, it wasn't that they weren't strong enough to fight them, but that they were distracted by having to condense their life star beads at the same time. Lei Long helped them out. I'll let you have some good food in a bit. Long Chun waved his hand, and Lei Long roared. A giant lightning sphere shot out. Lei Long roared, unleashing an attack. A giant lightning sphere shot out of its mouth and then exploded in the air. It transformed into lightning swords that slew the lightning beasts. These lightning beasts were nothing to Lei Long. Because they came from the same source, the divine lightning that Lei Long had absorbed made its thunder force far stronger than these lightning beasts. In a competition of power against power, Lei Long was like a tempered blade, while these lightning beasts were like cabbages. There was a qualitative difference between the two of them. The Dragonblood warriors might be having some trouble with these lightning beasts, but they were easy to handle for Lei Long. The Dragonblood warriors were delighted by this help. They focused the majority of their attention on merging their 2 life star beads. Being distracted was troublesome, and this help lifted quite a bit of pressure off of them, so they could now focus on their life star beads. Lei Long once more roared, and a giant arc of lightning shot out, forming a wave that slaughtered the lightning beasts. They were instantly shattered into lightning runes. That was a shocking sight. The original Devil Race's disciples were stunned by the lightning dragon that Long Chun had summoned. The method that the Dragonblood Legion used to undergo tribulation was shocking. It seems my worries were for nothing, said Yu Shihan. You can't be too sure of that. Long Chun is daring, but when the blood gets to his head, he might not think of certain details. Being careful is still best, said one of the elders. Time passed bit by bit. A willow image appeared amongst the Dragonblood Legion for a moment, but then it vanished. Lu Ruyan had been using her human form to undergo this tribulation, but for some reason, she had suddenly manifested her true body for a moment before withdrawing it. This genius of the undying willow race has broken through, said Yu Shihan, looking at Lu Ruyan. The undying willow is a very strong race. I didn't expect them to actually appear on the Martial Heaven continent and join the Dragonblood Legion, said one of the elders. This is Long Chen's charisma. He's able to make his followers follow him unto death. Their devotion is so great that it even looks a bit foolish. But this is the human heart. He is willing to risk his life for others, so others will risk their lives for him. That's why the Dragonblood Legion's power, unity, and fearlessness have resounded throughout the Martial Heaven continent. Even his enemies have no choice but to admit that the Dragonblood Legion is the continent's #1 legion. The only inexplicable thing is the legend about the 9-star heirs. They are supposed to be aloof, lonely figures who go against the world on their own. If Long Chun didn't possess the 9-star Hegemon body art, I'd suspect that he wasn't a 9-star heir, said Yu Shihan. Long Chen's existence didn't quite match the records written by her race. Rumbling rang out and the world suddenly became multicolored. It's the 5-colored tribulation lightning, exclaimed an elder. Troublesome. The Dragonblood Legion has yet to fully merge their 2 life star beads, said a worried elder. It's still fine. Long Chen's expression is still calm. He probably came prepared, said Yu Shihan. The 5-colored tribulation lightning crashed down like a flood. One after another giant lightning beasts came down, each larger than a mountain. They charged out of the 5-colored lightning and at the Dragonblood Legion. These lightning beasts condensed of 5-colored lightning were incredibly powerful. Just their roars caused people's souls to shake. They possessed immense heavenly might, which was the will of the heavenly Daos, making it so others wouldn't even dare to resist. Even the Nether Passage experts were feeling fear now. This kind of terrifying heavenly tribulation was something that they didn't want to touch. They had originally come to prepare a grand formation that could unite their force, so that if something unexpected happened to Long Chun and the others, they could transport them back to the skyscraping world. That way, the lightning tribulation of the Martial Heaven continent would vanish. This was a way of tricking the heavens. However, if they wanted to do this, they would have to wait until the Dragonblood warriors finished merging their Lifestar beads, or they would never be able to advance to Lifestar. The Dragonblood warriors were at a critical moment, but now this 5-colored lightning came crashing down on them. That had surpassed the limits of what the original devil race could possibly control. If they tried to interfere, their lives would be in danger. The only thing that gave them the slightest bit of comfort was that Long Chun wasn't panicking at all as he was immersed in the 5-colored lightning. He allowed it to wash over him, drinking it in. As for the Dragonblood warriors, they actually didn't show any fear in the face of this heavenly might. They were completely focused on merging their Lifestar beads. This heavenly might didn't give them much pressure. They had been going against this kind of heavenly might since they had known Long Chun, and they already possessed a certain resistance to it. This allowed the Dragonblood warriors to continuously maintain their calm. Lei Long suddenly roared, transforming into a giant. Shockingly, this giant was an image of Long Chun. This is... The original devil race's expert's pupils shrank. This lightning giant version of Long Chun stabbed a spear through the air, tearing through the void. A 5-colored lightning beast was instantly pierced through. However, the lightning spear didn't stop at all. It continued, killing all the lightning beasts in its path. Nice, Lei Long. Long Chun smiled. Lei Long had a lightning spear in hand and giant lightning wings on its back. That was Long Chun's peak combat state. In the lightning field, Long Chun had made Lei Long learn the Sundering Lightning Heavenly Wings and the Wild Lightning Soul Battle Spear, as well as told it to teach him once it mastered those techniques. In truth, Lei Long was able to display these lightning paragon arts on its own. However, without Long Chun's cooperation, it couldn't connect to the lightning field, causing their power to sharply drop. However, now Lei Long was using the power of divine lightning against these 5-colored lightning beasts. These 5-colored lightning beasts were fundamentally unable to block it. Just as Long Chun was praising Lei Long, a small flame dragon flew around Long Chun's neck and rubbed Long Chun's cheek. Haha, you're also amazing. You're both amazing. Long Chun rubbed Huolong with his hand, comforting this jealous little fellow. Huolong was also powerful, but Long Chun only had alchemy arts in his pill sovereign memories. His flame control arts were all for refining pills, not fighting with flames. He had to admit that when it came to fighting with flames, he was slightly inferior to Huolayun. It seemed that he would need to learn more flame arts in the future. After all, the heir of a pill sovereign couldn't be lacking such skills. Huolong was like a spoiled child curling around Long Chun's neck to show its own existence. Long Chun comforted Huolong as he watched Lei Long fight. The giant that Lei Long had transformed into was slaughtering the 5-colored lightning beasts. They were transforming into runes that the Dragonblood Legion was absorbing. Boss is mighty. Lei Long is domineering. The Dragonblood warriors cheered. The 5-colored lightning runes were many times purer than the previous runes. They could now focus on absorbing the energy of this lightning to merge their 2 Lifestar beads. The 5-colored lightning runes were rapidly speeding up this process. That lightning dragon actually possesses divine power. It's inconceivable, said Yu Shihan, looking at the lightning giant. Perhaps others weren't able to sense it, but she was clearly able to sense a divine attribute to it. Although it was very weak, she couldn't be wrong. Ha ha ha, I'm the first. Gu Yong let out a heaven-shaking roar. He hadn't managed to win any face against the Devil Blood Pool, but now he was first to break through. He had to take back his first-place spot. After all, he was the Dragonblood Legion's first captain. You're second. Lu Ruyan glanced indifferently at Gu Yong. Fuck. Only then did Gu Yong notice that Lu Ruyan had completed her advancement. Her hands were now on Chu Yao's back, and she was helping her merge her Lifestar beads. If Big Sister Meng Qi didn't lend a portion of her spiritual strength to you, let alone being first, you might not even be able to merge them. Lu Ruyan shook her head. Gu Yang's spiritual strength was extremely weak, and although it had grown stronger upon reaching the soul transformation realm and condensing a Yuan spirit, he was still at the bottom of the Dragonblood Legion. He was even worse than Guoran. It was Meng Qi who lent her spiritual strength to Gu Yang so that he would have enough spiritual strength to merge his 2 life star beads. Cough. If you always talk like this, you won't have any friends in the future. Gu Yang's face was a bit red as he awkwardly rubbed his head. Lu Ruyan really wasn't giving him any face. Lu Ruyan didn't pay him any more attention and focused on helping Chuyao. Other than Chuyao, Lu Ruyan didn't like talking to others. Everyone was already used to it. Well, I can't help anyone, so I'll go kill those lightning beasts. Feeling like he had lost face, Gu Yang hastily found an excuse to get out of this awkward position. Lei Long was easily slaying the lightning beasts, however. When Gu Yang joined in, he had some difficulty. Even going all out, it took over 10 blows to kill one. What the? How are they so strong? Gu Yang was startled. Without the power of divine lightning, he had no innate advantage over these lightning beasts. Following Gu Yang, Meng Qi also finished the merger. Although she had lent some of her spiritual strength, she had so much that she was able to finish very quickly. Following which Yu Zifeng, Yu Shaoqian, Tang Waner, and the others also finished and joined the battle. Boss, I feel like Guoran sent a message to Long Chun. He clearly couldn't last much longer. Stop finding excuses. If you need someone else to help you, your previous display at the Devil Blood Pool would be a lie, replied Long Chun. All right, I'll persevere. Thinking of how glorious he had been at that time, he couldn't get himself exposed now. Clenching his teeth, Guoran continued with the merger of his life star beads. More and more Dragonblood warriors managed to finish and join the battle. Hence, Yu Shihan and the others felt a weight fall from their minds. At this time, the Dragonblood warriors were absorbing the energy of the 5-colored lightning to expand their astral spaces and make them stronger. This was the best time to condense strong astral spaces. However, Long Chen's next words astonished them. Everyone, stop absorbing the tribulation lightning's energy, and definitely don't condense your astral space yet. Wait for everyone to finish the merger. Then we'll proceed with the next step. After merging the life star beads, the astral space would naturally appear. This astral space could be likened to an embryonic minor world. Condensing an astral space also indicated that you had advanced to the life star realm. At this time, they needed to absorb as much thunder force to strengthen their astral spaces. The more thunder force they could absorb, the larger their astral spaces, and the more world energy they could produce in the future. Moreover, the 5-colored lightning was an extremely powerful tribulation. This kind of lightning was something that not even every nether passage expert faced. This kind of powerful lightning would cause one's astral space to become much larger. It was several times more effective than regular lightning. It would usually only appear in a nether passage expert's tribulation. It was very rarely seen in the life star realm. The original Devil Race's experts had come to the conclusion that Long Chun had ordered the attacks against the heavenly tribulation specifically for this 5-colored lightning. Just as they were feeling praise for his foresight, Long Chen's shout left them dumbfounded. He actually didn't want people to absorb this 5-colored lightning? Boss, I really can't do it. Please lend me some spiritual strength. I feel like my head is going to split open. Look, Big Sister Meng Qi helped Gu Yang. So how can you let me lose face? Pleaded Guoran. Long Chun was speechless. Although Guoran's spiritual strength wasn't special, it wasn't so terrible. He definitely had the power to pass on his own. However, his willpower was too weak. He felt like he was out of energy, when in truth, he had at least 40% of his spiritual strength that was still untapped. His laziness resulted in him not excavating his own potential. However, Guoran had never been a person with great willpower. Or perhaps it should be said that his willpower was never used on cultivation. Helplessly, Long Chun stealthily gave Guoran a bit of spiritual strength. He even had to make it so that the others couldn't sense it. In the whole Dragonblood Legion, less than 100 people had yet to finish their merger. They were all in the final stages though, so Long Chun had no choice but to help Guoran. Guoran's body suddenly lit up, and his aura changed. That was a sign of finishing the merger. After the merger was complete, he seemed to become another person, no longer looking as pitiful as before. Looking at the warriors that had yet to finish, he called out, "Brothers, are you all right? To wait for you, I suppressed myself as much as I could. But I couldn't hold it any longer. Work hard. Success is just a little bit away. Remember, we're the strongest warriors of the martial heaven continent, and nothing can stop us." As Guoran shamelessly cheered on the warriors that had yet to finish, Long Chun sighed inside. However, very quickly the final Dragonblood warrior finished the merger. "Xiaoqian, attack the tribulation clouds," said Long Chun. "Me?" Yu Xiaoqian jumped in shock. She was from the original devil race, and the heavenly Daos of the martial heaven continent rejected her. She was already getting special attention from this tribulation. If she attacked it, the consequences were unimaginable. "That's right. Go ahead. I'm here if you need me," said Long Chun with a smile. Yu Xiaoqian suddenly thought of when she had undergone tribulation in the immemorial path. Back then, because of 4 mysterious experts interfering, she had almost died during her tribulation. She had barely passed, and in his fury, Long Chun had attacked the lightning tribulation, enraging the heavens and even forcing those 4 mysterious experts to flee. At that time, the heavens had chained Long Chun and bound him. However, he had torn apart the very fabric of the heavens. That was the moment Yu Xiaoqian's heart was completely won by Long Chun. Seeing his smile, Yu Xiaoqian also smiled. As long as Long Chun was present, there was nothing to fear. Her devil seal appeared on her forehead. After that, a ray of sword chi shot out at the heavens, accompanied by the specific energy of the original devil race. The tribulation clouds were torn apart by Yu Xiaoqian's attack. After seeing that, the expressions of Yu Shihan and the rest of the original devil race completely changed. The original devil race's experts were different from the Dragonblood warriors. They were rejected by the heavenly Daos. As expected, the heavens went calm for a moment, and the 5-colored lightning slowly faded away. The tribulation clouds began to quietly brew. In the end, giant black lotus flower clouds began to bloom, forming dense layers in the sky. At the center of each lotus was flickering lightning. A terrifying pressure grew. Yu Shihan and the others let out startled cries. "Divine lightning!" The lightning contained in these lotus flowers actually contained divine pressure. Even Nether Passage experts felt fear. This wasn't a matter of having the guts to face it, as this was a spiritual suppression. Divine lightning was for ascending experts. In front of this divine might, it was impossible not to feel fear. The sacred daughter. The Nether Passage experts turned pale white. Yu Xiaoqian was the hope of the original devil race. If she died, what would happen? At this time, Yu Shihan calmed down surprisingly. The fate of the original devil race was already intricately linked to Long Chun. Thinking of how smoothly things had gone until now, she felt it was a bit laughable to be so worried. She had already made her choice. She would leave everything to Long Chun. Suddenly, the lotus flowers exploded, and lightning rained down like sharp swords. The Dragonblood warriors' bodies were blown apart, their flesh becoming a mangled mess. Even the dragon blood battle armor was unable to block this. Each drop of lightning was like a bomb. Lei Long returned to its dragon form, wanting to devour this lightning. This was something that it really wanted. "Lei Long, go eat to the side. Leave the middle to the others," called out Long Chun. Although Lei Long didn't like it, it went to the edges to devour the leftover lightning. The center was for the Dragonblood Legion. "Don't worry. Now isn't the time for your meal. Let others eat first," comforted Long Chun. To everyone else, he shouted, "This lightning contains divine energy, so protect your heads. Use it to nourish your astral spaces." Each drop of divine lightning was like a bomb, causing their flesh to explode. If it was someone else, a single drop would be enough to kill them. Despite how much physical damage the lightning was doing, it would always transform into incomparably pure lightning energy after striking their bodies. Even without having to do anything, their bodies' astral spaces would automatically absorb it. If they actually focused on absorbing it, then the energy of this divine lightning would surge toward them like a flood, filling their astral spaces and making them grow. 1 meter. 3 meters. 10 meters. The astral spaces were like tiny worlds, while they were the masters of those worlds. They could clearly sense some kind of energy form a connection with them from this world. As their astral spaces grew, that energy grew stronger. Although they were still unable to use that energy, they could sense that they were rapidly growing stronger. The larger their astral spaces, the stronger they grew. I want to get stronger. Gu Yong suddenly roared and spread his arms as if to embrace this world. He allowed the torrent of lightning to fall on him as he crazily absorbed the divine lightning. Be careful! Long Chun suddenly shouted and flicked a finger. A lightning arrow shot out, knocking aside a drop of the divine lightning that was about to strike Gu Yang's head. Fool, make sure to protect your vitals. Otherwise, you might die. Due to his excitement, Gu Yong had forgotten just how dangerous this divine lightning was. If this divine lightning shattered his skull, it might cause his Yuan spirit to dissipate. My bad, boss. Gu Yong blushed and properly protected his head. The majority of the Dragonblood warriors were able to endure this torrent of lightning. However, the healing experts were in a miserable state. They were wood cultivators, and despite also possessing the Dragonblood battle armor, their physical bodies were too weak. Each drop blasted bloody holes in their bodies. If 3 drops landed at the same time, they would be in danger of dying. They were carefully blocking with their wooden staves, doing their best to make sure the lightning landed on them 1 drop at a time. Fortunately, their recovery abilities were amazing. Guoran, are you trying to get your armor destroyed? Shouted Long Chun at Guoran, who had tried stealthily putting on his armor. Feeling like he was at his limit, he had summoned his armor to cheat, but as a result, 2 large holes appeared in his armor in an instant. But! What buts? As long as I'm present, you won't die, so hurry up and absorb the lightning, ordered Long Chun. Guoran felt helpless. Not even his armor could save him now. Each drop of the lightning was covering him in blood, breaking his bones. However, he actually acted tough and didn't make a sound. His previous attempt at showing off had ended up going so well that he wanted to prove to everyone that he had only been acting cowardly before. If he became weak now, it would indicate that he was actually cowardly, not acting. Time passed slowly. Long Chen stood in the sky. If anyone was in danger, he would immediately go save them. Long Chun didn't mind the lightning that struck his body. It was barely an itch. After being rebuilt by the Azure Dragon Essence blood, Long Chen's body had reached an unimaginable level. Finally, after 2 hours had passed, the healing warriors were no longer able to endure. Coughing up blood, they had reached their limit. Long Chun suddenly flew over to the healing warriors. A lightning spear appeared in his hand, and with a wave, he blew apart the lighting rain, turning it into lightning mist. Boss! I'll block the lightning rain for you, so absorb as much of the lightning mist as you can. This relates to your foundation in the future, said Long Chun. A person's astral space could continuously grow during this tribulation. But once the lightning tribulation vanished, their astral spaces would solidify. Their future advancements would increase the sizes of their astral spaces based on the size after the tribulation. Based on normal cultivation standards, each heaven stage of the Lifestar realm would increase the size of the astral space by 30%. If a person's astral space was 30 miles wide after breaking through, it would be almost 40 after advancing to the first heaven stage. At the second heaven stage, it would once more grow by 30%. That was why the initial size of the astral space would decide how large it could grow in the future. This would greatly affect their power. This was their chance to get as strong as possible. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Guoran immediately came over, saying that he was helping when he was trying to escape his predicament. Long Chun couldn't be bothered anymore with this shameless fellow. What was to be feared was not someone who was willing to throw their life away, but someone who was shameless. Guoran was already unrivaled in that regard. Using the physical body to endure the lightning tribulation was a way to temper the will. As for using divine lightning, just how rare was that opportunity? But Guoran didn't cherish it in the slightest. However, Long Chun supposed that everyone had their own path. If anyone else is unable to endure it, you can come over, announced Long Chun. He needed to help the healing warriors right now and could no longer be looking after them. Fortunately, not everyone was like Guoran. They knew that this was an opportunity, a stroke of good fortune, a chance to get stronger. This opportunity was something that Long Chun had created for them. From the eastern wasteland, Long Chun had started training them, and the effects of the heavenly tribulation could not be neglected. They cherished this opportunity. They clenched their teeth and bitterly endured. They absorbed the divine lightning and used it to cleanse their bodies of impurities. Seeing the Dragonblood warriors enduring through this divine lightning, one of the original Devil Race's experts sighed. Who knows how difficult it was for the Dragonblood Legion to become the #1 legion of the Martial Heaven continent? They had to have experienced something like this more than once. Their accomplishments are no coincidence. These children are truly ruthless. Being ruthless to oneself is better than being consumed by others. If you want to live with dignity, you have to pay more than others, said Yushihan. I wonder how large the astral space of the Sacred Daughter will become? There's no way to say. However, being expanded by divine lightning will definitely make it larger than ours. Yushihan smiled. Yu Shaoqian was her daughter and her pride, as well as the hope of the original Devil Race. Yu Shaoqian was standing at the front, enduring the most divine lightning. She was covered in blood, but there was a determined light in her eyes. Yu Shaoqian smiled proudly as well as sorrowfully. If this was a peaceful world, Yu Shaoqian would still be an innocent child living a carefree life. However, this world was not peaceful. The original Devil Race in particular was in a very precarious position. They might be destroyed at any moment. When Yu Shaoqian was young, she was very obedient and worked hard on her cultivation. Behind her growth and maturity was the fact that she had taken up a heavy burden at a young age. Yushihan felt sorry for her. Eventually, the tribulation clouds began to shudder, and Yushihan sighed with relief. That indicated that the tribulation was coming to an end. Shaoqian, attack the tribulation again, said Long Chun. Yu Shaoqian didn't hesitate. A streak of sword chi tore through the sky. Suddenly, the clouds tore open, and a giant thunderbolt crashed down from that tear at Yu Shaoqian. Yu Shaoqian's hair stood on end as a sensation of death enveloped her. Boom! A lightning spear struck the giant thunderbolt, filling the air with blinding light. Long Chun now held a lightning spear, and after shattering the thunderbolt, lightning runes fell amongst the Dragonblood warriors. The Dragonblood warriors were delighted to find that these lightning runes were 10 times larger than the previous ones and many times purer. Boss, this is amazing! Absorbing these lightning runes, they felt their astral spaces rapidly growing. They practically doubled in size. Their delight dumbfounded Yushihan and the others. Were they actually forcing the heavenly tribulation to stay behind? They had never seen such brazenness. The void continued to tear apart, and the lightning transformed into giant spears that pierced down upon the Dragonblood Legion. Long Chun stood in the air, with a lightning spear and lightning wings, breaking apart the rain of lightning. The Azure Dragon power is truly amazing. It was worth risking my life for it. Long Chun was experiencing the immense power of the Azure Dragon. The same Paragon arts were now even more terrifying with it. All of Lei Long's energy was concentrated within the spear and wings. As Lei Long absorbed more thunder force, its power also grew. The Dragonblood warriors down below were crazy with joy as they absorbed the lightning runes. This was a completely safe, quick, and painless way of getting stronger. Being with Boss is a fucking blessing. Guyang felt like he might cry from joy. The feeling of his strength rapidly growing like this was amazing. Their astral spaces were growing rapidly as they absorbed the lightning runes. The most excited one was Yu Shaoqian. There had been a shadow left in her heart from almost dying during her tribulation in the immemorial path. However, she had now attacked the lightning tribulation repeatedly and didn't need to fear it. This was another reason why Long Chun had made her attack the tribulation. It was for her to overcome this heart devil. The lightning spears raining down from the sky were like the fury of the heavens, causing the world to shake. However, Long Chun had his own lightning spear that blocked all of them. Suddenly, one of the healing warriors coughed up a mouthful of blood. Cracks appeared all over her body in a horrifying fashion. She herself was also startled, not knowing what was going on. "You've reached your limit. Go rest, and don't absorb any more thunder force," warned Long Chun. In the end, people had limits and she had reached hers. In the next incense stick's worth of time, more and more dragon blood warriors reached their limit. Some who still wanted to absorb more were shouted away by Long Chun. A limit was a limit. Any more and their bodies would explode. More and more dragon blood warriors were forced to retreat. In the end, only the strongest experts were left. Meng Qi reached her limit first amongst the top experts. That was already a miracle. As a beast tamer, she hadn't expected to be able to last this long. Others also reached their limit right after her. The one to last the longest was Lu Ruyan, but she also reached a limit. This tribulation had been a stunning success. The fury of the heavens was gradually fading. However, just at that moment, Long Chun suddenly soared into the clouds. "Break!" Long Chun replaced his lightning spear with Evil Moon. A pitch-black saber image tore through heaven and earth. The giant tribulation clouds were split in two. "Damnable heavens, how do you like it?" sneered Long Chun. "Has he gone mad?" Yu Shihan covered her mouth. Boom! The tribulation clouds suddenly merged back fiercely. Booming noises rang out as if the world was roaring. Suddenly, giant lightning beasts began flying out of the tribulation clouds. They were of various forms but were all lifelike. Their power caused the world to shake as if the world couldn't contain their power. Long Chun formed hand seals, and Lei Long appeared behind him. However, suddenly Long Chun became startled as he noticed that Lei Long didn't want to cooperate with him. "Lei Long, stop making a fuss. You can't eat that much anyway," said Long Chun. Surprisingly, Lei Long didn't want to open the spatial channel. It wanted to consume these lightning beasts itself, ignoring whether or not it could even absorb that much, that the tribulation was reaching its end. It would quickly dissipate, so it didn't have time to devour them. Although it was unwilling, Lei Long was very obedient. His body spun through the air, forming a spatial channel. Giant lightning drakes came flying out of that channel. Upon seeing the powerful lightning beasts of the tribulation, their eyes turned red. "Don't say that I'm not loyal. Today, I'll treat you to a feast," laughed Long Chun. "Brother Long, I knew that you wouldn't forget us." Those lightning drakes excitedly pounded upon the tribulation beasts. They were the lightning drakes of the lightning field, and the strongest existences below the Silver Drake King. Back when Long Chun had come to an agreement with the Drake King, they had even helped him gain the Paragon art. They had also helped him out immensely in the Yin-Yang world. It just so happened that Long Chun could now repay them with this tribulation. These tribulation beasts contained divine lightning within them. That was the most precious type of energy to these lightning drakes. They crazily devoured them. Although these tribulation beasts were very powerful, they lacked intelligence. They only charged at Long Chun because Long Chun's attack just now had provoked the wrath of the heavens, causing the will of the tribulation to turn on him. These tribulation beasts only had one thought, and that was to kill Long Chun. They ignored the lightning drakes until the lightning drakes had already coiled around them. By then, they would just be devoured easily. "Lei Long, lend me 90% of your energy, and send 10% to devour the lightning runes." After saying that, Long Chun raised Evil Moon. Lightning surged along Evil Moon as he slashed it toward a tribulation beast. The divine power of Lei Long and Evil Moon combined. The tribulation beast was blown apart into divine lightning runes and then devoured by Lei Long. Before Lei Long was even finished devouring those runes, Long Chun had moved on to the second. With Lei Long and Evil Moon working together, it was easy for them to kill the tribulation beasts. "Brothers, hurry up. Time's almost up." Long Chun saw that the tribulation clouds were growing sparse. By this time, any further attacks against them would be useless. He had exhausted all the power of this tribulation. If it was just one person undergoing tribulation, then there would have been little chance for even the five-colored tribulation lightning to appear. The reason the tribulation had so much energy was because there were over 10,000 dragonblood warriors undergoing tribulation together. All the energy had now been forced out by Long Chen, and the energy of the heavens was fading. Could not punish Long Chen. The lightning drakes frantically devoured as much as they could. Sometimes, the tribulation beasts would be half devoured and still charge toward Long Chen while the lightning drakes moved on. It was easy for Long Chen to kill those stragglers. Only half of the tribulation beasts had been slain, but the tribulation was already starting to fade. The tribulation beasts began to return to heaven and earth. Suddenly, a silver claw stretched out of the channel, and a silver ripple spread, blowing apart those tribulation beasts. A large mouth then came out of the channel and devoured those lightning runes. The Silver Drake King had come. Long Chen, how could you not call me? The Silver Drake had attacked through the channel and taken the lightning runes. The channel that Long Chen had made this time was too small to fit it through though. Why did you come? Long Chen was startled. Long Chen, you had best give me an explanation, raged the Silver Drake King. It was speaking spiritually so others couldn't hear. How could I possibly call you over something so tiny? This kind of snack shouldn't interest you. That's why I only invited your little brothers. And I'll invite you for the real feast later. Didn't you notice that this isn't even my own tribulation? It's the tribulation of my brothers. Only once I break through will there be a real feast. To tell the truth, I'm a bit worried that your stomach isn't big enough, said Long Chen. Are you telling the truth? Questioned the Silver Drake King. I disdain lying. Long Chen frowned. Cough. Then it was my mistake. Now it's a bit awkward, said the Silver Drake. It really is a bit awkward. This little bit is barely enough food to get stuck between your teeth, but it's a good piece of meat to your brothers. As the boss, you can't be selfish, said Long Chen. Then what do I do? The Silver Drake King didn't know what to do now. It would be a blow if it admitted it was stealing food from its brothers. Fine, I'll help you. However, you have to help me when I need it too. Long Chen didn't give the Drake King a chance to reply before announcing, How dangerous! Just now, the divine lightning beasts were about to fade away. But fortunately your king came to capture them in time. Quick, go back. Your Dragon King is going to share the divine energy with you. Due to the Dragon King attacking, the channel is about to reach its limit. I really envy you for having such a good boss. Long Chen seemed to sigh emotionally, giving a thumbs up. His words were very brilliant. The drakes naturally had no idea if they were true or false. They immediately became grateful to the Drake King. Many thanks. The Drake King expressed its thanks to Long Chen before leaving as well. His conning ability was unrivaled and had given it face. The tribulation disappeared and the lightning channel faded. All the energy of the tribulation had been spent, and the Dragonblood Legion's people had absorbed as much as they could for a perfect advancement. Quite a few corpses were floating on the surface of the sea now that the tribulation was over. Those corpses belonged to the sea demons that had been near. Due to the Dragonblood Legion's tribulation descending suddenly, some of the weaker ones hadn't had time to flee. Let's go. Long Chen waved his hand, and everyone went over to the spatial channel that Yu Shihan had already summoned. They returned to the skyscraping world. All of them were excited enough to shout. Most Lifestar experts only had astral spaces around 100 miles wide at the start. Even rank 9 celestials would only have around 300 miles. The astral space contained one's world energy, but usually those below rank 9 celestials were not qualified to actually use their world energy. That was why the Dragonblood warriors were able to easily slay Lifestar experts while in the soul transformation realm. Those Lifestar experts were usually only around the level of rank 7 or 8 celestials. Those experts had not managed to catch the Great Era, and their cultivation bases had reached their limits. So those Lifestar experts were not able to compare to today's heavenly geniuses. As for the Empyreans who were called heavenly geniuses, their astral spaces would normally be around 3,000 miles. Only at that level was it possible to bring out the full potential of the world energy in their astral spaces. In the Yin-Yang world, The army of Life-Star Empyreans that had charged over was so powerful because they were able to control a bit of their world energy. However, since they had only recently advanced, they could only control a bit of it. This was why Hualayun was so terrifying in comparison. His realm had already stabilized at the first heaven stage of Life-Star, allowing him to control his world energy. If Long Chun hadn't obtained the Azure Dragon reverse scale, he would have been crushed. No one knew how large Hualayun's astral space was, but right now, even the weakest healing warrior had reached an astral space of 30,000 miles. The Dragonblood warriors had all achieved astral spaces over 100,000 miles, with some reaching 150,000 miles. As for Gu Yong and the captains, they had astral spaces 300,000 miles wide. However, one person was so monstrous that their astral space was almost 1 million miles wide. That was Yu Shaoqian. When that news spread, the original devil race was overjoyed. Gu Yong and the others were a bit upset by this immense difference, but Yu Shihan explained that it was due to the special cultivation technique of the original devil race. It had nothing to do with talent. The one to benefit the most from this tribulation was Yu Shaoqian. She even had a deeper understanding of the profound spirit Tao scripture after experiencing this tribulation. Many areas that she hadn't understood were now clear to her. Long Chun told everyone not to care too much about the size of their astral spaces. That was just a portion of the power of the Life-Star realm. There was something even more important, which was awakening their manifestations. Only upon reaching the Life-Star realm was it possible to awaken their manifestations. However, that would require comprehension and luck. The tribulation had ended, so Yu Shihan found a secluded place for them to enter seclusion. They had to stabilize their realm first. Long Chun also didn't laze around. He went to the ancestral land of the original devil race and took out a mountain of medicinal pills. Opening his mouth, he activated the divine ability Swallow the Heavens, Devour the Earth. Those pills were like a flood entering his stomach. Runes lit up on his stomach, forming a foundation. This was the divine ability of the dark evil dragon race. Hualong had been refining pills constantly, giving Longqin a giant stockpile. Now it was time to use it. Let's see what heaven stage I can reach now. Rumbling sounds rang out within Long Chen's stomach, like a volcano was erupting. Endless energy flowed through him.